Chapter 103. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but Xiao Qixi simply felt that Ao Daisai, who had 3 lifetimes of memory stored in his mind, was very stable and no longer had that kind of impulsive and capricious emotions. Unlike the previous Ao Daisai, who was excited with him, but did not have the conditions to be intimate with him immediately. If he was anxious, he would vent his anger on everyone, and whoever provoked him would be beaten up. His straightforward love was expressed on the surface and in his words. Of course, the one who would make Ao Daisai angry the most was Jelly. Sometimes they fought fiercely and didn't stop until they were several kilometers away. Xiao Qixi had some questions to ask, but he didn't want to ask directly. The older he grew, the thinner his skin became. He always felt that if he had an IQ, he should be more reserved. Ao Daisai. Following the other's footsteps, Xiao Qixi asked casually, I feel that you have changed a lot. Will you still chase after Jelly and beat him up in the future? He used whispers. Obviously, these topics could not be heard by other killer whales. They would interrupt, and in the end, they would definitely talk about the wrong topic. Jelly, Ao Daisai said, if he needs a beating. This answer was really watertight. It was very in line with Ao Daisai's current style, comprehensive and mature. I see, Xiao Qixi said with amusement. You used to think that he needed a beating every day. Well, Ao Daisai seemed to want to say something, but in the end, he didn't say it. This time, the journey was quieter, mainly for 2 reasons. One was that a couple in the team liked to whisper, and the other was that AID was fasting and his whole spirit was listless. Although it was a plastic brotherhood, other killer whales would not really chat when their companions were listless. How stupid would that be? Xiao Qixi no longer beat around the bush with Ao Daisai. He gently comforted the patient. AID, bear with it. Your stomach will recover soon. Receiving the kind comfort, AID responded shyly, Thank you. What made AID even more touched was that no one had eaten for the past 2 days. This was great, otherwise he was afraid that he would not be able to control himself. Ao Daisai did not plan to eat. He knew how greedy AID was. If he saw them eating, he would take a bite even if his stomach hurt. Love was sick for a reason. However, he did not think that his little cutie would follow suit and stop eating. There was no reason for that. In short, Yulishanda was a special existence. I'll take Yulishanda out to play. Ao Daisai didn't hesitate to inform them that they were going out while everyone was snoozing by the rich seaweed. Ahem. Xiao Qixi was paying close attention to a prawn beside her. She was considering whether to eat it or not when Ao Daisai's sudden words almost choked her. So sudden? Why didn't they discuss it with him? The behavior of a straight man. Oh, it seemed that all the killer whales knew what they were going to do. They did not have the intention to ridicule them. After all, they did not have the intelligence to do so. They just felt that Yulishanda was so pitiful. She was tired and hungry from the journey. No, you guys were very relaxed, and she had to go on a date with Ao Daisai. They heard that dating was very tiring and that the tail would be sore. No, the representative of high IQ, Daya, found a serious illogical problem. Why would the tail be sore? Wasn't sourness a kind of taste? That's right. Who was the one who said that? So uncultured. Everyone recalled carefully. In the end, the source was traced back to Yulishanda. It was Yulishanda who said it. But it's definitely not Yulishanda's fault. It's his group's fault. The Antarctic killer whales like to talk nonsense. That was also because the Antarctic killer whales like to talk nonsense. I think that's right. The commander did not speak often, but every time he spoke, he was very cultured. After all, the concept of being cultured was also brought by Yulishanda. He felt that everyone was generalizing too much. Yulishanda is very smart, much smarter than you guys. His sentences are very interesting. He felt that it was wrong. It must be that everyone did not understand. Oh, I can't think of a sentence to object to. Carrie was silent for a while and asked Eddie, what do you think? If it was the old Eddie, he might have racked his brains to think of a sentence to object to, but it was different now. He said loudly, the commander is right. As a porter, The commander satisfied his vanity and said modestly, Yelishanda is right. Well, where was Yelishanda? In the blink of an eye, Yelishanda and Ao Daisai were no longer around. At this moment, they had already swum far away. Even Xiao Qishi thought the same as his companions. He thought that Ao Daisai was taking him out on a date, and now the other party was looking for a suitable place to date. What was this, the type that was inwardly passionate? However, he slowly realized that something was wrong. Ao Daisai had not been near the shore. It seemed that he was not looking for a date, but more like he was looking for food. Thinking about it, this was not strange. Could it be that the other party wanted to eat before going on a date? Behind Eddie's back, Xiao Qishi could still feel a little guilty. After all, he was the one who came up with the bad idea of not eating. Ao Daisai, are you catching food? Xiao Qishi was lying on his back, floating freely on the surface of the sea with plenty of sunlight. If there was a drone in the sky at this time, it would take a picture of his white belly and his leisurely posture. This was a very beautiful picture, and it would be even better if it could be recorded. On the eve of the date with his partner, the killer whale was in a good mood and sang a song. Unlike the sad and melodious songs of the blue and gray whales, the killer whale song was more lovely and mellow, like a lark on the grassland. It was impossible to imagine that he also had a huge body. His handsome male killer whale partner rushed into a group of salmon in front of him. In an instant, many big fish either fainted or died under the persecution of the killer whale's tail. Thank you, Ao Daisai, Xiao Qishi said. The snow-white water bubbles caused by hunting dissipated, revealing Ao Daisai's good-looking face. He was looking at his partner intently. The other party's blazing gaze also made Yelishanda look forward to the next date a little more. What will it feel like this time? He was still exhausted, his whole body was like cotton candy, but his heart was so comfortable that it wanted to float. In the past, Ao Daisai was very enthusiastic and overbearing, but now it should have changed. It is estimated that he would be a gentleman and restrained, reluctant to touch him for a while. But the water here is very cold. If Ao Daisai is not in a hurry, he can wait. Of course, Xiao Qishi is not afraid of the cold. It is still okay to not take so long. After all, he also wants to be affectionate with Ao Daisai. Thinking of this, his eating speed slowed down because he was blushing and his heart was beating fast because of his own imagination, and there was also a trace of regret and a strange mood. Perhaps it was because he was reluctant to let Ao Daisai's passionate side go. Could he still experience it? That's why people are very contradictory. When you have something, you feel too much, but when you don't have it, you feel lost. Ao Daisai quietly watched the little bear eating. Unlike the smarter the other party was, the more he thought, he could always determine that this was his intuition at a glance. It's not that Ao Daisai is not smart. He is also very smart. He will keep in mind the questions he cares about and take them out and play them back and forth from time to time. For example, Yelishanda said to him, "Do you know why we keep turning into other animals after we die? Do animals have a concept of death?" Yes, even without a high IQ, they can clearly understand life and death. Life is the beginning of life, and death is the end of life. Killer whales have their own culture and deep understanding of life and death. That's why they are so happy about the arrival of life. This just shows how much they cherish and persevere in having life. When death comes, everything returns to darkness, because the eyes that are closed will never open again. The world that cannot open the eyes is dark. Ao Daisai, who woke up repeatedly, knew that he had a second and third life. As for why, he also had his own understanding. He thought that it was because he missed Yelishanda too much, so he opened his eyes again and again. In Ao Daisai's heart, as long as he kept missing Yelishanda, he could keep his eyes open. Anxiety does not exist. His world is simple and pure. Sometimes it's so simple that it makes people feel distressed. They can't even bear to tell him the truth about the world, but it seems that he doesn't need to know too much. Since Ao Daisai has not been looking for a date, Xiao Qishi slowly began to wonder if he was thinking too much. In fact, Ao Daisai didn't mean that at all. Oh my God, that's too embarrassing. He decided to ask clearly, Ao Daisai, you said that you brought me out to play, just to eat? Is there anything else besides eating? Anything else? Do you want to play? Ao Daisai understood and actively circled around Yolashanda. What do you want to play? I'll take you there. Xiao Qishi. Oh my god, it's really... Are you going to see the corals? There doesn't seem to be any here, only reefs. You can play drilling holes. Ao Daisai gave him an idea. Drilling your big tail. Xiao Qishi thought to herself unhappily, you've just thought of so many romantic and beautiful love stories between us. Don't you want to kiss and hug me? Ao Daisai's current behavior seems like he really doesn't want to. Yolashanda wondered, did I fall out of favor? Or Ao Daisai can't do it. I don't want to play drilling holes. Since there are only black reefs, what's there to drill holes for? He drilled holes to see the colorful corals and colorful fish, definitely not to experience the sense of accomplishment of drilling his body through a space. Drilling holes in the sand? Ao Daisai remembered that this was one of Yolashanda's hobbies. He liked to eat small food that buried his body in the sand. Yolashanda didn't know what to do other than spraying water. No, that means he wants a toy. He probably won't be able to find one in a short time. Ao Daisai planned to find one for Little Bear when they reached the South Pacific Ocean. Maybe he would find a suitable one on the way. Maybe Yolashanda would like it. Actually, I just want to ask you, don't you want to be intimate with me? Xiao Qishi asked directly. The surroundings were quiet for a moment. There was only the sound of flowing water and perhaps Yolashanda's heartbeat. No, if he could hear it, there was also Ao Daisai's heartbeat. It was synchronized with his heartbeat, and it was also getting faster and faster. You think, I don't want to be intimate with you? Ao Daisai spoke again. His face came in front of Xiao Qishi. Suddenly, he felt a sense of oppression. Maybe Ao Daisai didn't do it on purpose. He was just a little agitated because he was doubted. Isn't that so? Xiao Qishi was very nervous. No. Ao Daisai came closer to him. Their bodies touched, and the other party pushed him back. This was the source of the oppression. Just this simple contact was enough to make Xiao Qishi dizzy, or perhaps it was because of the warm sunlight on the surface of the water. Do you want to? Xiao Qishi heard his own voice trembling. It was more or less bewitching. This wasn't him. Yes. Ao Daisai didn't know if he was bewitched. He hugged the little cutie affectionately and didn't leave for a long time. This hug made Xiao Qishi feel at ease. His tense mind relaxed. Oh, there was a question that he wanted to ask for a long time. This seemed like a good opportunity. Ao Daisai. The little milk whale's voice was very ethereal. It sounded in his ear. When do you want to be intimate with me? Often? Every day, Ao Daisai said. At this point, Xiao Qishi obediently shut his mouth. He was laughing in his heart because he couldn't promise that he could do whatever he wanted. Okay. Xiao Qishi understood Ao Daisai better. He hummed a little tune, turned around, left the other party's embrace, and swam into the depths of the sea. Ao Daisai's arms were empty, but he wasn't angry. He seemed to be in a good mood and swam freely. Of course, in the end, he still came to Xiao Qishi's side. At the beginning of April, the human port was very busy. Large ships came and went in the strait. It was very noisy. Toot! The sound of the whistle traveled very far. Even the humans themselves found it harsh, not to mention some of the animals in the sea who were very sensitive to sound waves. It's so noisy, so noisy. In the past 2 days, Eddie's stomach had recovered. He joined the ranks of the gluttons again. He could eat and sleep every day and was very happy. However, he hated the sound of the whistle and cursed viciously. It would be great if all the human ships sank to the bottom of the sea. It was just a casual complaint, but it caused a heated discussion in the small group. Balala was excited. That's a good idea. Sinking a ship? Gary, who had just eaten his fill, burped and very enthusiastically joined the discussion. Yes, I heard that killer whales have done this before, but unfortunately, the ship they attacked did not have fish. I think we can find a ship with fish. It's best not to be too big. Daya couldn't bear the loneliness and came up with ideas. I think it's easier to get a small and medium-sized fishing ship. With our strength, we can completely overturn the ship. The humans on the ship will also fall into the sea. although they can swim. But how should they put it? The killer whales felt that humans were not marine animals and would drown. Xiao Qixi was dumbfounded. Why did the topic suddenly jump to breaking the law and sinking a ship? Were these audacious killer whales serious? But thinking about it, even if they really overturned a fishing ship, it seemed that the law couldn't punish them. May I ask, why did you overturn the fishing ship? What is your request? Xiao Qixi thought about it. They still couldn't let this plan take shape. If it really took shape, they would report it. By then, the people of the world would know that there were a few killer whales that were especially troublesome. This was somewhat different from his original intention of traveling in the world. I want to eat fish, Eddie said. But there are also many fish in the sea. It's not difficult for us to catch big fish. As for whales, ordinary fishing ships wouldn't be able to catch them. It's better to steal from humans. Balala's words were laced. Xiao Qixi couldn't continue. Request? Interesting. Daya silently digested the knowledge. He was different from his companions who only knew how to eat, drink, and play. Daya had his own unique views about the things around him, such as sinking ships. My request is to let humans know that the sea is our territory. They can't steal our food. Ao Daisai. And they can't destroy our environment. Seeing the big ships coming and going in the strait, he suddenly remembered that the little bear had said that the Arctic Ocean was poisonous and the environment was not good. Why was it not good? Maybe it was because humans had put too many things that didn't belong to the sea into the sea, and many things that belonged to the sea had been taken away. Xiao Qixi was amazed. After thinking about it, he felt that as an alien, it was better for him to stand in the middle. He could only silently apologize to the fishing ship that might be unlucky in the future. If humans really fell into the water, he would help to fish them out. Because they hated this place, they quickly left the strait. Short-term goal: overturn a fishing ship with fish. Long-term goal: go to the South Pacific. There was no hurry. The killer whales felt that the short-term goal was more interesting. Ever since everyone agreed to this plan, Xiao Qixi felt that his head was about to explode. He could hear countless sentences all day long. Fishing ship, where is the fishing ship? Did you find a fishing ship today? Why haven't you found the fishing ship yet? Don't humans come out to catch fish? From this question, Yulashanda thought of another problem. He suddenly realized that before he joined this group, everyone was quite silent. Yulashanda thought for a moment. No, it's definitely not me who led this group astray. Because they had nowhere to vent their enthusiasm, the killer whales became a little listless within a week. It seemed that they didn't even enjoy eating anymore. Yulashanda, who didn't want to cause trouble, was happy to see this. It would be great if they didn't have to go to the fishing ship. At the same time, he felt sorry for them. Do you feel that when you don't want to see fishing ships, they always appear, but now you can't find them even if you want to? That's right. That's it. The description was really apartment. Yulashanda was really smart. He immediately said what they were thinking. Why is that? That's not important, Eddie, the captain asked Yulashanda with interest. Then how do you think we can find a fishing ship? For this common phenomenon, Voyan's observation and Murphy's law gave a solution. If you really can't find something common, then don't look for it. In fact, it was based on the results. Since you can often see it even when you don't look for it, then don't look for it. Let nature take its course. The smart Yulashanda summed up the law into a simple and easy-to-understand sentence. This was the wisdom of the ancestors. When what? The killer whales didn't quite understand, but they chose to do it out of trust in Yulashanda. Last time, Eddie's stomach had recovered so quickly because he believed in Yulashanda's suggestion. Okay, then we won't look for it. Everyone agreed. Then they did what they were supposed to do. The team returned to its usual relaxed atmosphere. Xiao Qixi breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, if you can't find it in a week, you'll completely forget about it. Oh, a week was his greatest respect. According to everyone's memory, they might forget about it in 2 days. Yes, Xiao Qixi's suggestion was only a temporary measure. He didn't really want everyone to find a fishing ship. Sorry, QEQ. You're so smart. Ao Daisai never doubted Xiao Qixi's words. He also thought that this method would work. When his companions dispersed, Ao Daisai came over and hugged his partner, who had a lot of culture in his head. Exclamation point. Xiao Qishi felt guilty. Fortunately, this group of fat tigers would never know that he often tricked them. Why? Ao Daisai leaned against Little Bear, blinked, and fell into deep thought. The problem he was thinking about today was a little heavy. Is it because they only wake up once? What? Xiao Qishi didn't quite understand at first, but after thinking about it carefully, he understood. Ao Daisai. That's probably the reason. He also explained the problem in more detail. It's not that they wake up, it's that they only have one life. If it's gone this time, it's gone. Ao Daisai hummed, and there was a little disappointment in his intelligent eyes. Perhaps he was thinking of the lion brothers who had left them, or perhaps he was thinking of the future, of this group of heartless killer whales who were destined to say goodbye. In the silence, he suddenly heard everyone's excited voices in the distance. Fishing ship. Xiao Qishi's heart thumped. What? The author has something to say. Thugs have no heart. Stealing from humans is more delicious. Xiao Xiao, you bunch of outlaws. I want to have a share too. Tisk, carrot? Chapter 104. The appearance of the fishing boat was like a dream. It was hard to believe. However, the excited voices of the killer whales echoed in their ears. They cheered like a group of children who were free in the playground. Fishing boat. Fishing boat. Hey, Yulishanda was right again. He didn't talk nonsense. Then we'll listen to him next time. Xiao Qishi was numb. So you all thought I was bluffing. We really found it. It was Ao Daisai who spoke. It seemed that he was only willing to speak when it was related to Xiao Qishi. Ao Daisai was not obsessed with the fishing boat, but Yulishanda's prophecy came true. It was a happy thing. Little Bear, let's go and take a look. Xiao Qishi broke down instantly. Really, why was even the steady Ao Daisai eager to try like a big child? Ao Daisai, are you also interested in overturning the fishing boat? It's okay, but they don't have me. They can't overturn the fishing boat. Sometimes, Ao Daisai doted on his companions. He was obviously the one with the highest IQ, but he would occasionally cooperate with his companions to do stupid things, such as now. It turned out that he was indulging his companions. Xiao Qishi was inexplicably moved. Yes, they were just a group of killer whales. What was wrong with doing what they wanted to do? Why stop them? There was no need to stop them. Fishing boat, we're coming. Balala and the others had already approached the fishing boat and were excitedly discussing the battle plan on the road. A felt that it should be this way, B felt that it should be that way. The result was a huge argument. The captain was very angry. He felt that these guys who only knew how to eat and did not have brains wanted to rebel. He shouted, I used to make the decision. He was sorry for losing his composure. He could only blame Balala for being too annoying. He always came up with bad ideas and thought that he was particularly smart. But this is our first time attacking a fishing boat. Aoli, you have no experience. Can you guarantee success? Balala was also very wronged. He just expressed his opinion and hoped to be adopted. It's normal to fail. When the regiment commander said this, Xiao Qishi guessed that he was rolling his eyes. In terms of IQ, the regiment commander indeed had the right to look down on Balala, who came up with random ideas. Your idea is full of loopholes and illogical. How do you know if you don't try? Balala was stubborn, as if someone had stepped on his sore spot. He continued to pester endlessly. I think my idea has a higher chance of success. I also think that mine is bigger. Mine is bigger, just by listening to their voices. Xiao Qishi felt that they were competing to see who was louder, but she was already used to it. This was how killer whales quarreled. They were either competing to see who was louder or stronger. Oh, stop quarreling. Eddie tried to mediate the fight weakly. He had never fought with his companions before. He was afraid that he would be involved in the fight, but he also wanted to show off his intelligence. Why don't you ask Alexander? Although Carrie wanted to see the captain beat Balala up, the fishing boat was more attractive to him now. He would see Balala's bad luck in the future. The ABC, who reached a consensus, called Xiao Qishi in unison. Yilishanda, come quickly. The fishing boat is going to run away. Don't worry, The fishing boat won't run away. Having heard them quarrel all the way, Xiao Qishi came near the target and poked his head out of the water to spy on the situation. The fishing boat that the killer whales were interested in was not big. As for how big it was, Xiao Qishi could not describe it. Since he grew to 3 or 4 tons, his concept of volume had been distorted. The humans on the fishing boat felt that their fishing boat was quite big. When they saw the dorsal fin of the killer whale in the distance, they immediately made a noise. It's the killer whales. What do they want? It sounded like they were not worried about the killer whales attacking their boat. As everyone knew, killer whales rarely did this, not to mention their boat was not small. It's really unlucky. With them here, all the fish have run away. The experienced fishermen were not happy to see the killer whales. They were not sightseeing tourists. They were just people who relied on fishing for a living. It was not uncommon to see groups of killer whales coming over to steal fish. What should we do? It was not easy for us to find this place. There were a lot of fish here. They had just cast a net. Hurry up and close the net, or the fish will be scared away by them. Xiao Qishi heard them talking in English and quickly informed his companions to pay attention. They are closing the net. When their fish are hung on the deck, we will rush in. In order to protect ourselves, they will throw the fish down. As for whether the boat would capsize or not, it was up to fate. The thugs in suits had no opinion. They felt that Xiao Qishi's idea sounded perfect and would succeed. I think it's okay, Barara said. I think it's okay too, Carrie said. Barara said, Carrie, don't copy me. Xiao Qishi held his forehead and sighed. They were so lively. It's time to close the net. Aren't you going to pick up the leftovers? As the saying went, when the fishermen closed the net, many fish would struggle to escape. Oh, forget it. Everyone was uninterested. It seemed like their ambition was not to fish. Then what exactly were they looking for? Was it just to play with the human mentality? On the boat, a big bag of fish was slowly lifted. The fisherman on the boat smiled. Wow, good harvest. Not only that, he even raised his middle finger to the killer whales in the sea, as if to say, see if I'm scared of you? Xiao Qishi was stunned. No, this quality, what is he doing? Eddie asked curiously. He knew some knowledge about humans and heard that humans especially liked killer whales. Yilashanda, is he playing with us? It doesn't look like it. Daya had always been a very sensitive killer whale. He did not hear much friendliness in the voices of this group of humans. Indeed, it was not. Xiao Qishi did not say anything, but there was a fire burning in his heart. Why? No, he could not spoil this guy who scolded people. Of course, his counterattack was also very light. He just rushed over and splashed a pool of water with his tail, drenching the man's head and face. F*CK. F*CK. The man was stunned. When he came back to his senses, he kept scolding. His companions laughed at the side, taunting their colleague who had been teased by the killer whale. They even took out their mobile phones to take pictures of him, saying that they would put him on Facebook. F*CK. The angry young man looked around, took out a turtle that he had caught last time from the bucket, and threw it at the killer whale closest to him. The killer whales were surprised. The human really threw a fish. However, when they took a closer look, they found that it was a turtle. They were not interested in it and used their tails to fan the turtle away. We don't want a turtle. We want a fish. Xiao Qishi was helpless. He was teasing you. It was really hateful. I don't like him. Ao Daisai came to Xiao Qishi's side, stopped for a moment, and rushed to the hull. The young man standing by the side of the boat was happy with his performance. Suddenly, he felt the hull of the boat shake. Before he could finish saying F*CK, he fell into the sea. With a splash, the killer whales around were stunned for a moment, but they immediately regained their excitement. Is it going to start? Overturn the fishing boat, quick. They no longer cared about the poor turtle, and all began to attack the fishing boat. For a moment, the whole fishing boat was shaking on the sea. Xiao Qishi's first thought was to fish him out, but he found that the man could swim and might be harmful to himself. Well, he hesitated for a moment. Should he wait until he was half dead? The humans on the boat were very anxious. Someone fell into the water. Someone fell into the water. For a moment, Many people came out of the cabin and began to rescue their colleagues who had fallen into the water. At the same time, they had to stabilize the shaking hull. Someone cursed, "What the F***CK is going on? What's going on?" "Well, it's a group of killer whales attacking our boat, boss," the worker replied dejectedly. "Why would a killer whale attack a boat?" The fishing boat owner said, "Do you think I'm a fool?" He had been fishing at sea for so long, but he had never encountered a killer whale attacking a fishing boat. "There must be a reason. Tell me quickly." One of the workers finally told the truth. "Does a certain person giving a middle finger to those killer whales count? I think it's ridiculous. If this was really the reason for the attack, you guys are even more ridiculous. Oh my God, you actually..." The fishing boat owner felt that they were simply perverted. As for the young man who fell into the water, he panicked when he fell into the water and almost forgot that he could swim. It wasn't until he choked on a few mouthfuls of seawater that he remembered to paddle his hands and feet. At the same time, he was extremely scared because a group of killer whales surrounded him. Would the killer whale that he had just scolded bite him to death? When one of the killer whales approached him, the young man was so scared that he almost cried. He regretted it. However, the other party didn't bite him. Instead, it lifted him out of the water so that he wouldn't be soaked in the cold seawater. Otherwise, such cold seawater would definitely take away half of the other party's life. The young man shivered and his eyes were dull. When he came back to his senses, he stayed on the back of the killer whale and apologized. I'm sorry. And thank you." On the lively sea, Balala and the others were still rocking the boat. They used all their strength, but found that they still couldn't overturn the boat. "No, this boat is too big. We can't overturn it." After trying a few times, Daya came to the conclusion that it was impossible to succeed. Who chose this boat? No one could answer this question. Anyway, it's not me. ABCD innocently cleared himself. No one. It's not easy for a fishing boat to appear. Everyone is crazy with joy, so it's not anyone's fault. Xiao Qishi was afraid that they would quarrel again, so he quickly came to a conclusion. In fact, what he wanted to express was that when stupid things were done, no killer whale was innocent. The young man who was still waiting for rescue on Xiao Qishi's back was shocked when he heard the killer whale's voice. "That's not the point. The point is, your hand is blocking my ventilation, dash." Xiao Qishi wanted to cry, but fortunately he could still hold it in. A few minutes later, the boat's ladder was lowered, and the young man climbed up the boat, trembling. The humans on the boat saw a killer whale carrying their colleague who had fallen into the water, as happy as a dolphin to save people. At this time, the killer whale's attack on the fishing boat also announced a complete stop. The people were even more convinced that their abuse and ridicule had angered the group of killer whales. Some of them blushed in shame because they were indeed in the wrong. They shouldn't complain about killer whales stealing fish. There was no law that said killer whales couldn't eat any kind of fish in the ocean. But there were laws that clearly stated that there were some fish that humans couldn't catch. "Hey, guys, thank you." The fishing boat owner waved his hand to the people below the boat. This killer whale had helped him a lot. In order to thank the other party, the fishing boat owner was quite generous and threw them a lot of fish. Balala and the others just happened to be hungry from the collision. When they saw the fish, their eyes lit up. Yulashanda was right again. They really threw the fish. Yulashanda, who was praised to the sky, felt that the whole thing was a bit wrong, but he couldn't figure out what was wrong. Forget it, eat the fish." Ao Daisai, who had completed the first collision, saw everyone eating the human fish with satisfaction, and seemed to be quite satisfied with the result, although the fishing boat didn't capsize. There were some very ordinary fish in the human fish net. Ao Daisai glanced at them without looking sideways. It was obvious that his taste was more sophisticated. The other killer whales were the same. They ate a little and then left. They didn't eat enough and proposed to eat sharks. Ao Daisai didn't respond. Sometimes they would shout this hundreds of times a day. Yulashanda must want to eat sharks too. Carrie asked very sneakily, "Yulashanda, don't you think so?" Yulashanda, who was being treated as a tool whale. I'm not. If you want to eat sharks, go catch them. Don't use my name." But if they didn't use his name, This plan was doomed to fail. After slowly swallowing a few tasty fish, Ao Daisai seemed to have begun to face this problem seriously. He approached Xiao Qixi and asked doubtfully, "Little cutie, do you want to eat sharks?" Xiao Qixi was stunned. Why would Ao Daisai believe such bad words? But to be honest, the way Ao Daisai called him little cutie in a serious manner was full of contrast cuteness. "What do you think?" "I'm fine with anything," Xiao Qixi said. Ao Daisai blinked and couldn't help but turn his head to kiss his partner. Although it was just a touch, it was just to express his good mood. There were many pairs of eyes around watching, and they were all exuding the light of gossip. It seemed that they couldn't wait for them to roll 2 rounds on the spot. Xiao Qixi felt uncomfortable and thought, "What are you single whales looking at? Haven't you seen dating before?" "Oh, it seems that way. This group of handsome men in suits who have broken up with love live a lively life. It seems that they don't need to date. What's the reason for this?" On the way to catch sharks, Xiao Qixi suddenly became interested in their love life, so she quietly asked Ao Daisai, "Why don't Jelly and the others fall in love?" He had explained the word love to Ao Daisai before. It described their current situation. Ao Daisai should be able to answer, right? "They won't," Ao Daisai said. Xiao Qixi was confused. She didn't understand, but she didn't ask again. Watching the group of killer whales leave, the humans on the fishing boat breathed a sigh of relief. Today's encounter was really too thrilling. Someone had filmed all the scenes, not just for the sake of publishing. In fact, this information was also very precious and could be sold for a good price. For example, to the news agency. Sure enough, this fisherman sold the information for a good price. He also praised his boss and promoted the fishing boat he worked for. He was too smart. A few days later, when the boss saw the news, not only did he not scold his employees, but he also gave them a bonus. This was because this was the first time he and his fishing boat had been reported, and it was a mainstream newspaper. The young man who gave the killer whales the middle finger. "You have no heart." After the newspaper was published, this news became the most popular news of the month, causing rounds of discussion on the internet. Don't underestimate this news. There were too many angles to discuss. Every angle was a rather serious and sharp question. First, the survival environment of marine animals was facing serious challenges, and protection was urgent. Second, what should humans do to maintain a balanced and harmonious relationship with animals? People from all walks of life who were concerned about these issues expressed their opinions, although they might not necessarily have much impact on the current situation. Of course, there was no lack of humans who said, "Caring about the survival of animals is the heart of a saint." If they're so caring, do they usually eat meat? Aren't chickens, ducks, and geese animals? It was believed that many people who loved animals couldn't find the right words to refute when faced with such a question. Then there was no need to refute. They just had to believe in their own beliefs. If they said a word more to such people, they would lose. A few killer whales who hit the fishing boat and swaggered away didn't know that their brothers were in the newspaper, and the color photos were published on the front page, almost occupying half of the page. Yelashanda, color photos? I want it, but we don't deserve it. The few groups of killer whales of different species were quite easy to identify. The only thing missing was a label of "We are very special" on their foreheads. The organization that had tracked them before tracked them down again according to the geographical location given by the fishermen. This group of killer whales that attacked the fishing boat for the first time went to the Arctic Ocean before, but they quickly retreated from there for unknown reasons. Perhaps they were not used to the water and food there. In the past 10 years, the Arctic Ocean had rarely seen killer whales from outside. This was a fact. People were very pleased to find that the small group that included 3 different types of killer whales got along very well. Now they were going all the way to the South Pacific. According to their speed of eating, drinking, and playing, they would probably arrive in July to August. The Antarctic little killer whale that was abducted into this group also adapted well, thanks to Ao Daisai's careful care of him. After just a few days, the drone took pictures of Ao Daisai catching a seal on the shore and immediately passing it to the little killer whale next door. He also took pictures of him teaching the little killer whale how to use the stranding technique, using a live seal as a tool. Every time the seal was about to escape, Ao Daisai would bring it back. Over and over again, he was as patient as a father. If you don't understand the situation, you won't be able to tell that Ao Daisai was facing his partner. Even Yolashanda felt that it was cruel to practice with a live body. It was better to eat it directly and not have a mentality of a leopard. Are you hungry? Ao Daisai laughed. Not really. I think it's better to practice with seaweed. Xiao Qixu's eyes looked around and soon found a large piece of seaweed on the sea. She decided to use it to practice. Up to you. Ao Daisai had no opinion. Then everyone saw him foolishly accompanying Yolashanda to hit the seaweed with his head. Go! Xiao Qixu found a good angle and rushed over, biting the seaweed fiercely. The group of seals squatting on the shore, leopard. This group of killer whales have a bad mentality. T to the power of T. Chapter 105. The life of a killer whale was very boring, so an interesting thing that happened occasionally in life was worth discussing. For example, when Yolashanda learned the stranding technique, Balala and Carrie watched with great interest. They were just short of holding popcorn and Coke. Not only did they watch, but they also liked to criticize. Balala felt that Ao Daisai should not teach like this. By the way, was Ao Daisai so patient when he taught us? No, Carrie remembered clearly. One-on-one was thinking too much, right? When Ao Daisai taught Yolashanda, it was one-on-one, hands-on. When he taught them, it was 1-on-5. Demonstrating twice was considered a lot. Sai. This was a new word that AID learned from Xiao Qixu. What do you mean? To express dissatisfaction. ABC Sai. Xiao Qixu was laughing so hard that he was almost out of breath. What the hell were you guys sighing about? It caused him to deviate from the direction, and he did not even touch such a large piece of seaweed. No, Sai does not mean dissatisfaction. Xiao Qixu finished laughing and explained to them seriously. Sai means helplessness. Helplessness? AID blinked, still not understanding. No way. Probably. No way. Isn't that dissatisfaction? AID did not care. Sai meant dissatisfaction. You forget it, whatever. Xiao Qixu was quite helpless now. Fortunately, AID did not have a language teacher. Otherwise, he would not be able to hold the coffin lid down. Do you still want to practice? The leader, who was calmer and more taciturn than them, asked. It seemed that he was also very concerned about Yolashanda's learning situation. Using slightly more cultured language to describe it, he was anxious in his heart. Why don't I be the practice target? He recommended himself. The seaweed did not move. After practicing and familiarizing himself with the movements, he had to come into contact with living things. Can I? Xiao Qixu was flattered. This was the love from the leader. Although everyone was used to practicing together, killer whales were actually quite slow to warm up. Feelings needed to be accumulated slowly. The fact that Elliot was willing to be his practice partner was a huge leap in terms of emotions. This meant that Elliot not only treated him as a companion, but also as an elder, just like Ao Daisai. Sure, the regiment commander's words were concise and comprehensive. This was his usual self. It was as if he would only scold his childish companions when they forced him into a corner. Thank you. Ao Daisai immediately said that if he had Elliot as his practice partner, it would be much easier. Ao Daisai wouldn't get jealous when it came to such serious matters. He was very smart. Thank you, Regiment Commander. Xiao Qixu knew that this was a rare opportunity. Come on, don't be afraid of bumping into me. Use all your strength. Replacing Seaweed's position, the prepared captain said to Yolashanda. All right, I'm coming. Xiao Qixu was indeed afraid that he would bump into the other party at first, but thinking about it, if he was prepared, how talented would he have to be able to bump into the captain? The other party was an experienced thug in a suit. Everyone thought so too, including the captain himself. In his heart, he really didn't put the spoiled Yolashanda in his eyes. Definitely not. Yolashanda had to be fed by Ao Daisai for a meal. That's right. Hey, was there any necessary connection between the two? No. Xiao Qishi felt that his mentality was also messed up by his companions. This was the fun between couples. Do you understand fun? A group of steel singles. Probably only Ao Daisai understood that Yelashanda was not as weak as they thought. Whether it was talent or experience, he was very good. Yelashanda, hurry up and bump into Elliot. Come on, Eddie was like a cheerleader, twisting happily at the side. Anyone could see that he was very happy. Under his lead, the other killer whales also twisted. Oh, a new joy in boring life. Look at Yelashanda bumping into Elliot. Come on, they even sang. Was it necessary to be so funny? Xiao Qishi felt helpless and happy for them. Well, he didn't mind being a monkey for once. When Yelashanda bumped into him, Elliot was taken aback. Oh, the speed was very fast and the strength was very strong. It seemed that he would have been hit if he had hesitated for a second. This level was quite good. Ah, he failed. Xiao Qishi felt both regretful and reasonable. He then retreated and began to reflect on what he had done wrong. Oh, come on. Don't be discouraged. Everyone felt that it was a matter of course. It would have been a surprise if he had succeeded. Only Elliot knew that Yelashanda was actually very powerful, but he couldn't understand. Since he had such a powerful talent, why did he still need to be fed by Ao Daisai? Sorry, he had never been in a relationship before. How could he know that it was normal to feed each other? It wasn't only those who couldn't take care of themselves who needed to be fed. Again, the captain was very dutiful in accompanying Yelashanda to practice. Otis, on the other hand, observed Xiao Qishi's mistakes carefully and explained to him how to be more efficient. Sometimes, he would even accompany him to do it. Captain, forget about little ya. You're so big. Aren't you messing with my mentality? The rest of the killer whales were dutiful cheerleaders. They kept creating celebratory patterns around them. Sometimes it was tail, slapping, and sometimes it was a continuous flip dance. It could be said that they were a very loving, small group. The killer whales, who were immersed in their own world, did not know that human society had begun to pay attention to them. There was even a photography team that wanted to shoot a documentary for them. Until Xiao Qishi discovered that drones were appearing more and more frequently, and there were even helicopters and other means of transportation that were convenient to approach them. As a former human, he knew that this was a routine operation. Otherwise, so many well-made documentaries would not have been produced. The significance of documentaries was to broaden people's horizons and discover that there were so many lovely lives on this earth that were worth paying attention to. Yelashanda was very happy to contribute to the animal protection cause. However, he very much minded becoming an actor in Whale V. Fortunately, they usually did not shoot at night. He and Ao Daisai mostly did it at night. After tracking this group of cute killer whales for only about 2 weeks, people found that many of the stereotypes that existed before were wrong. For example, the tolerance of killer whales, although there were some differences according to different species, it was not big. Some of the notorious passerby whales would still do good deeds and would not kill innocent people when they were not hungry. Well, different species of killer whales have the power to influence each other. For example, in this group, everyone's diet gradually became closer to that of the Antarctic killer whale. The problem was that the Antarctic killer whale was the youngest in the group, which indirectly showed that it was not the older and stronger killer whales that could set the style of the entire group. As for the truth, I'm afraid that humans would never have thought that it was actually strength that counted. Yes, the Antarctic killer whale was not strong, but his partner was. When Ao Daisai opened his mouth, if he wanted everyone to eat seals, they would eat seals. If he wanted them to eat sharks, they would eat sharks. Seriously, was Ao Daisai the strongest? This was not seriously compared. Anyway, everyone knew that he was fierce and ruthless. He would beat them up mercilessly. In fact, it was very simple to bring down Ao Daisai, the evil force. Any 2 killer whales working together would be enough, but did killer whales have the IQ to do so? Did they understand the group attack? Xiao Qishi felt that they did not understand. Alas, he always felt that he was a little lonely living among a group of primary school students. but he was also a little glad. Moreover, they might understand, but they just did not want to do so. Perhaps they felt that it was quite cool to be bullied by Ao Daisai. This was masochism. The South Pacific in August was the ideal vacation paradise in the hearts of many people. Whether it was Fiji or New Guinea, there were many vacation boats floating along the coast. As the saying goes, if the water is too clear, there will be no fish. Although Fiji was very beautiful, Yolashanda had always wanted to go there. The problem was that it was too expensive. He did not have money before. Now, he could go there without money, but his companions told him that he would starve to death if he went there. The water there was too clear. Moreover, there were many people, and the fish were hiding in the deep sea. Killer whales were not deep-sea animals. They only liked to stay in the sea between 20 and 60 meters deep. Generally, they rarely went to the deep sea. To go to Fiji, they had to cross at least a very deep sea. What was the point of going there if they were hungry and boring? After being brainwashed by his companions, Xiao Qishi went to Fiji. They went to the coastal area of New Guinea and saw a lot of bikinis. Xiao Jin Shi, blushing. Let's go to a place with fewer people. But it had to be said that even on the coast with fewer people, there were hot girls rowing boats on vacation. After all, they also thought that it would be happier to row boats on a coast with fewer people. It would be best if there were not too many men. Balala was exhausted and did not want to swim anymore. He floated his head out of the water to spy on the boat, and then casually commented, "That human looks okay." Their evaluation of humans had always been bad. Now that they were saying that they looked all right, Xiao Qishi's curiosity was piqued. Oh, it was not just him. His companions were also gossiping. Xiao Qishi took a look. All right, Balala's aesthetic was no different from all the men he had met. They all liked blonde hair, blue eyes, and long legs. The key was that the human figure was good. Ao Daisai, you are not allowed to look. Xiao Qishi suddenly ordered. He did not care. He did not care. So what if they were different species? In short, he was not allowed to look at beautiful girls. Why? Ao Daisai did not peep and was not interested in humans. He seemed to be more interested in the little cutie not allowing him to look. Yolashanda's current mood was strange. Ao Daisai savored it carefully and tasted a sour taste. There were very few foods in the ocean that tasted like this. In fact, Ao Daisai did not like to eat it either. But now, because of this, he felt an inexplicable sense of pleasure. Resonance? Well, if he was facing a human object, Xiao Qishi would be shy and say nothing. Why ask so much? But Ao Daisai really did not understand. He could not bear to refuse the other party's desire for knowledge. I'm afraid that you will be like Balala and think that she is very cute, cuter than me. Then he would die of jealousy. No, Ao Daisai felt very strange. Why would he think that a human was cute? He did not like humans. Oh. Xiao Qishi looked at the other party eagerly. What else? What else? Say a few sweet words. If you don't say it now, when will you say it? Before Ao Daisai could say the sweet words that Yolashanda wanted to hear, the rest of the killer whales began to interrupt their love, as usual. Yolashanda, don't be afraid. You are cuter than humans. Fear was a very bad emotion. They were duty-bound to help their companions to restore their normal emotions. Yes, I also want to raise an Antarctic killer whale, but I don't want to raise a human. It could be seen that the Antarctic killer whale was much cuter than humans. Raise? Xiao Qishi was speechless. What did these killer whales think the Antarctic killer whale was? A child bride? And a fun pet? Yes. Otis nodded his head in agreement with Carrie's statement. Xiao Qishi did not speak because she was speechless. Everyone was still comforting her. Daya, well, Yolashanda, you are our companion. We love you. Humans are humans. We will find them interesting, but we will not love them. In terms of logic, Daya was indeed the best. I know, Daya. Thank you. Xiao Qishi felt very warm. Yes, companions would take care of each other's emotions. He quickly dispelled everyone's tension. I'm not afraid. I am very happy now. And I love you too. A few 4 to 5 ton men said they loved each other. It was so shy. Ao Daisai was also jealous, but he did not know if the little cutie would taste his taste. The taste here referred to the emotions, not the real taste. Love you, I love you the most. Xiao Qishi did not think so much. He simply wanted to confess and let Ao Daisai know what he was thinking. The confession would undoubtedly make the other party very happy. Yes. Sure enough, a figure quickly enveloped him and stacked on top of him. You are mine, declaring sovereignty. Xiao Qishi was stunned and laughed again. Ao Daisai, you are jealous. What was that? Ao Daisai did not remember such a thing as vinegar. Xiao Qishi turned over and pressed his chest and abdomen against the other party. He hugged him and explained, vinegar is a sour thing. Do you know what sour is? Yes, sour. Ao Daisai suddenly understood. He knew this. That was right. Have you tasted it? His emotions were sour. Yes. Xiao Qishi did not know whether to laugh or cry. You're the one who is jealous. You should have tasted it. The warm embrace did not last long. The charming atmosphere between them was quickly interrupted by the cheers of the humans. The reason was that a killer whale had jumped out of the water and performed a 0-minute dive for them. Simply put, it was a big splash of water. Oh my God, do it again, do it again. The humans on the boat and on the shore shouted crazily. After all, some of them did not have time to take out their phones to take pictures. The cheers were infectious. The killer whales in the water could feel that they were very popular. They are so silly. They are so excited just by jumping, Balala said calmly. It was as if he was not the one who had deliberately jumped out of the water to attract the attention of the beautiful blonde woman. But they look cute when they scream. Dia wagged his tail and seemed to be eager to try, but this was a little different from his usual style. Think about it, think about it. I will try. As the humans wished, Eddie jumped up and splashed, causing a lot of laughter again. Eddie, haha, they're indeed a little silly. Although he said that, he began to prepare for the next jump, or backstroke to the bottom of the boat, making them scream even more enthusiastically. Xiao Qishi doubted life. 1 second, you said I was the cutest, and the next second, you started to make the little sisters laugh. You are really something? Sure enough, the mouths of males are all liars. But the laughter of the little sisters is really healing. Xiao Qishi, I am coming. Aren't the Antarctic killer whales better looking? Yo-ho, the humans on the boat and on the shore found that these killer whales with super good personalities seemed to be sexist. They only moved around the little sisters' boats and did not care about the males at all. Didn't you see their upright dorsal fins? They're 7 handsome guys, haha. It seemed reasonable to only make the little sisters happy. The male humans felt a faint sadness, but standing further away, the photos taken looked better. They could only comfort themselves like this. Hashtag 7 handsome killer whales with super good personalities appear on the coast of New Guinea. Hashtag this series of videos was released one after another and quickly became popular on the internet. Many people remembered, it's them again, the group of killer whales that fought the fishing boat and saved people last time. Many people felt that they were too mean. Their personalities were quite bad. But after watching the new video, well, the killer whale also acted according to the dish. He was very good to the young lady. The girls in the video were all laughing. However, they were the main characters wherever they went. They were destined to steal the limelight with Fat Tiger. For the first time, people felt that this kind of black and white color scheme was more photogenic than beautiful women. Wherever they were, there would be attention. However, didn't they say that there were 7 killer whales? It seemed that only 3 or 4 had been on camera. Could it be that the other killer whales were not keen on playing? Of course, they did not leave. They just watched their companions from the side. It was said that the Atlantic type 2 killer whale was the boyfriend of the Antarctic type A killer whale. They did not know if it was a rumor. After all, in the eyes of humans, everything was good. Whether it was or not, it was never a bad thing to have more knowledge. So the vast majority of netizens began to learn to distinguish which was which. If there was no clear picture comparison, ordinary netizens would not be able to tell. Unlike the researchers, they were already familiar with the habits of these beasts. Good personalities? Fake. Sexist? Really? But there was one thing that was very good about them. They were very tolerant of their companions. Recently, in a human marine park, a 6-year-old killer whale in captivity was sick and seemed unable to recover. The museum is now planning to release the killer whale. The little killer whale left the ocean very early. It will be difficult for him to adapt to ocean life now. Whether it is in terms of predation or emotions, he will be lonely without his companions around him. In the aquarium, there are trainers accompanying him, although the aquarium is not the living environment that the little killer whale wants. Otherwise, he would not have gotten sick. Anyway, the museum had a headache for a long time. They heard that there was such a group of killer whales in the South Pacific, which included 3 different types of killer whales, which gave them a little hope. Maybe this group would be willing to take in this sick little killer whale. Sorry, it is not illegal to trade killer whales in human society. This little killer whale, Bot, has served the marine park for 4 years and may not have made much money. Its existence may make the boss feel very unlucky because it is not easy to deal with it when it is sick. The process of release was very tight, and it began almost immediately after the decision was made. However, they still did some wilderness survival training first and found a suitable water area for testing. When the sick little killer whale was transported, its dorsal fins were curved, and its body was not as big as that of other killer whales of the same age. It was very thin. There was no charm in its eyes, and it was easy to fiddle with. The little killer whale's trainer actually loved him very much, but there was too little he could do. He could only accompany him all the time, talk to the little killer whale, encourage him to live hard in the ocean, and let his body recover quickly. In the future, he would be free to fly in the sky and roam in the sea. So being sick was not a bad thing. Instead of spending the rest of his life in the swimming pool, it was better to fight for a chance to return to the ocean. In the test field, the little killer whale touched the seawater that it had not seen for a long time. Was it the same as in a distant memory? He was not very sure, so he was a little timid at first and felt unsafe in this strange environment. Later, it seemed that he learned without a teacher. He cheered up and explored outside. Yes, although there was still a barrier separating him from the sea, he could smell the taste of freedom, which was right in front of him. In the little killer whale's eyes, there was a little light of intelligence, and at the same time, he swam more and more freely. The trainer wept with joy. He hadn't seen Lucky so happy for a long time. Oh, there would be no Lucky in the future, only a free little angel, and only his companions would be qualified to name him. Would he have companions? If his character is good enough and he doesn't eat much, we don't mind. Chapter 106. More than a month ago, a group of humans suddenly came to this secluded coast, chattering nonstop all day long. What were they doing? Why did they surround a field? Were they going to raise fish in it? Yelashanda, who had been forced to be knowledgeable, had been having a headache recently. Ever since everyone knew that he was cultured, there were always dozens of strange questions that they wanted answers from him every day. It was as if he knew everything. How would he know if humans were raising fish in the sea? Maybe? There should be no problem with this answer, Xiao Qishi thought. Unexpectedly, he immediately heard Balala smack his lips excitedly. Then let's bite through the net and get in to eat. That energy was as if he hadn't eaten for 3 days. Xiao Qishi was dumbfounded. She thought to herself, I'm not even hungry for a meal, so why do I have to do this? Oh wait, I was wrong just now. There might not be fish inside. I'll go and eavesdrop first. Don't move. Xiao Qishi was frightened by Balala and quickly changed his words because he was talking nonsense. Who knew what was inside? What if it was very scary and dangerous? Eavesdrop? Yelashanda can understand human language. Daya didn't speak, but when he spoke, he always got to the point. Unfortunately, the other killer whales didn't get how rare this point was. Their expressions were equivalent to Little S's cold face. Oh, Yelashanda is so smart. Isn't this how it should be? Not only that, but they also felt that Daya was being strange. It wasn't like they hadn't heard Yelashanda use foreign languages to make overseas calls. This is not the same. Ao Daisai probably didn't have a good sense of humans. He stayed close to Yelashanda. Although he didn't say anything against him, he subconsciously blocked him with his body. He didn't want to stop Xiao Qixi. He was just guarding against the male humans who were holding strange tools in their hands. They always felt that the unknown was dangerous. Fortunately, Xiao Qixi's hearing was sharp. The sound of human conversation was transmitted over the water, and he could hear most of it. When a few keywords were combined, he basically knew what was going on. It turned out that this place was going to be a test site for releasing killer whales. Xiao Qixi was speechless. F***CK, because in his impression, releasing killer whales was almost equivalent to murdering killer whales. From ancient times to the present, most of the killer whales that were released died very quickly. But thinking about it, if the killer whale is in good condition, it will not be released. There must be something wrong with sending it back to the sea. What a sin. After taking a few deep breaths, Xiao Qixi returned to his friends. Although they didn't say anything, they looked at him with curiosity. At least, that was what Xiao Qixi felt. I found out. Xiao Qixi had to tell his companions the truth that a killer whale would be released here soon. The small cage was to protect the killer whale that had just entered the water. Once he's adapted to the seawater inside, we can let him come out and interact with the real sea. After he finished speaking, he realized that the surroundings were very quiet. Could he not understand? But when he thought about it, these killer whales did not know that there was such a thing as a marine park in the world. Xiao Qixi patiently did a little science lesson. He hoped that this little science lesson would not leave a psychological shadow on everyone. After all, it was not very beautiful. That is, the killer whale was captured by humans, and now they don't want to keep it. So they released it back to the sea, captured and kept in captivity? It's impossible. The land is full of air. It will be choked to death by the air. Carrie immediately corrected him with a trembling body. He was choked by the air. The feeling was very uncomfortable, as if he was about to die. There are also small lakes, swimming pools on the land. After he was captured, he lived in a small lake. It took him about 10 seconds to swim around. Xiao Qixi thought about it. Anyway, the swimming pools in the aquarium, in his impression, were not big. That's too uncomfortable. The head, Balala Carey, and the others imagined it and said one after another. If they lived in such a narrow space, they would go crazy. Sigh. Eddie angrily expressed his dissatisfaction. Well, it was quite right to use it here. Xiao Qixi couldn't correct him. Wasn't it just a sigh? What kind of human would take away a killer whale? A.O. Daisai, who had been silent, suddenly asked. He was floating on the water at the moment, looking at the workers who were working on the shore. The aura around him was a little cold. Maybe it was the content of Xiao Qixi's story that touched his mood. People who are blinded by greed and want to gain benefits from the killer whale. Xiao Qixi sighed in his heart. It was very uncomfortable. When he came back to his senses, he found that several killer whales were staring at the construction workers. Hey, it's not what I imagined, is it? No, there has been no case of killer whales hurting people in the wild since records began. This group of whales, who have a clear distinction between love and hate, are just more emotional and daring to love and hate. Yulashanda, don't worry. We won't let humans take you away, Carrie said suddenly. Xiao Qixi was first very moved. Thank you. And then he was confused. Why do you think humans will take me away? The 6 killer whales said in unison, because you are cute. Why do humans want to catch killer whales? Isn't it because they are cute? Well, Yulashanda thought about it with his brain. This logic seemed to hold water, and there was nothing wrong with it at all. Killer whales were caught because killer whales were cute. If killer whales were as ugly as 7 fish gills, humans wouldn't even be interested in eating them, let alone watching them. It was too disgusting. Xiao Qixi didn't know what his companions were thinking. He said, "Do you want to watch the fun here?" It seemed that the site had just been completed, and he didn't know when it would be used. I don't want to watch. A.O. Daisai resisted being close to humans from the bottom of his heart, especially when he knew that humans would take killer whales and raise them in captivity. His fists were hard, mainly because he was worried that little cutie would be taken away. Let's go to the next island. It was not far away, and there were few humans there. On human maps, it was called the Solomon Islands. Generally speaking, no one would object to Ao Daisai's proposal, although they were actually very curious. Which killer whale was so stupid that it would be caught by humans? On the way, Carrie quietly approached Xiao Qishi, little by little, thinking that he could avoid Ao Daisai's detection. In fact, Ao Daisai already knew, but he just didn't care. Yulashanda, his voice was very small, and he obviously didn't want to be heard by anyone. Here it comes, here it comes. Xiao Qishi was ready to receive all kinds of strange questions. Strange question 1. Why don't humans keep that killer whale? Is it because he is not cute anymore? Carrie knew that some animals in the ocean also like to keep pets, but generally they would not give up halfway. At most, if the pet was not in good condition, they would eat it directly. Probably sick, Xiao Qishi said. Oh, thinking of being sick, Carrie's first reaction was diarrhea, because they rarely got sick and didn't have much concept of this. Strange question 2. How do you know that there's a small lake, swimming pool on land? Have you been there? Strange question 3. That killer whale must be very stupid, right? Strange question 4. Is it like Eddie? As he spoke, Carrie stopped whispering. With Yulashanda's eyesight, she really couldn't tell if he was doing it intentionally or not. Eddie was angry. Carrie, don't think that I don't know that you are beating around the bush to say that I am stupid. Carrie was also very angry. You are slandering me. I'm not beating around the bush. He said it directly, okay? You are. I'm not, stupid Eddie. The two of them quarreled just like that. The difference was that one was angry, and the other was angry and full of grievance. They couldn't even quarrel, and he was very annoyed. Xiao Qishi, Ao Daisai, the leader, was so angry that his head was full of bumps. The next second, he turned around and slapped both of them in the mouth to get some quiet space. Daya blew a string of bubbles. Now it's quiet. His voice sounded like he was gloating. Nearby, Balala happily walked through a patch of seaweed and said to Yulashanda, "It's so fun here. Yulashanda, come quickly." Obviously, he didn't know that his sworn enemy Carrie was beaten up. Otherwise, he would be even happier. Oh, Xiao Qishi didn't know why either. Was there a problem somewhere? It seemed that his image in everyone's mind was that of a playful guy. The seaweed was actually quite scary. The endless seaweed blocked out the light, as if there was no end to it. What was fun about it? It was fun. It was as exciting as a haunted house. Yulashanda, are you here? Balala felt some movement, but didn't know who it was. Woola! Xiao Qishi suddenly rushed out from a corner and attacked Balala's tail. Balala frantically rushed out and dived into the depths of the seaweed. The surroundings were quiet again, and only the gurgling of the water could be heard. Xiao Qishi, who was pretending to be a ghost, quietly searched for Balala's figure in the seaweed, imagining how to scare Balala half to death. The deeper the water, the darker the surroundings were. Suddenly, a black shadow swept past from behind. It was so quiet that it was hard to tell if his eyes were playing tricks on him. Who is it? Xiao Qishi hurriedly turned around, but didn't see anything. Good, such a fast learner. Xiao Qishi chased in the direction that the shadow left. He didn't think that he would be scared. Then, with a swoosh, another black shadow flitted past his back. This person was so calm and didn't say anything. It definitely wasn't Balala's big mouth. Who was it? It couldn't be Ao Daisai either. According to Xiao Qishi's knowledge, Ao Daisai wouldn't bully him like this, but if it wasn't Ao Daisai, wouldn't it be even scarier? Knock! Xiao Qishi's hair stood on end. He decided not to look for Balala and quickly leave this damn place. Just as he was thinking about this, that elusive, ghost-like figure rushed out again. There's a ghost. Xiao Qishi scurried around and bumped into a chest. He opened his eyes and saw Ao Daisai looking at him. What? The whale that hurt me the most is the whale that I love. Damn it, why did you scare me? Little Milk Whale used his pectoral fins to hit his annoying boyfriend. Go away, go away. He continued to scare Balala. Balala was confused. The moment he opened his mouth, he already had double standards. Ao Daisai successfully scared little cutie. He sounded like he was having fun. Why didn't you play with me? A.O. Daisai lazily chased after little cutie. I can't scare you. What's so fun about this? A max-level player should have the awareness of a max-level player. Normal players would take a detour when they see you. Suddenly, Xiao Qishi's eyes turned. A.O. Daisai, go and scare the captain. Oh, is he causing trouble? He's not afraid. A.O. Daisai expressed that he wouldn't go anyway. Is the captain so awesome? Both sides were silent. Balala came out of nowhere and saw them leave in a hurry. Thinking about the captain who was not afraid, and then thinking about Balala, there was a big difference between whales. Everyone played in the water grass for a long time before they continued to move slowly. However, since they were moving slowly, it seemed that the word hurry should not be used. Anyway, it was just eating, drinking, and having fun. They didn't have to go to work or go to school. When they were tired, they would sleep. When they opened their eyes and wanted to eat, they would grab food to eat. Sometimes, it was common to only swim a few kilometers a day. After leaving the coast where the killer whales were going to be released, Xiao Qishi didn't completely forget about this matter. He decided to pay attention to it and see how it goes. Maybe he could help a little. What he didn't know was that this shocking incident, do killer whales have this kind of thing, also left a deep impression in the hearts of his companions. More than a month later, they all heard a strange voice. It was very different from other killer whales and full of strange flavor. Like a child who had just learned to speak, his mouth was full of Martian language. In short, they couldn't understand what he was saying, but they could hear that the other party was depressed. It seemed to be full of loneliness, sadness, and helplessness. I know who he is. Xiao Qishi quickly thought of the killer whale that was released. It was probably not adapted to ocean life. He hoped that there would be an individual who could communicate with him. It's the killer whale that was released. Do you still remember? Yes. Their memory was also very good. Okay. It sounds like a child. The thugs in suits came to a conclusion. According to their experience, they determined that this little killer whale was at most 5 or 6 years old. A.O. Daisai, who crossed the sea at the age of 6, is 5 or 6 years old, still a child. Xiao Qishi, who was 6 years old and still acted coquettishly in front of his mother. Yes, a child is a child. If you don't like it, hold it in. Then he was probably taken away when he was very young. His mother must have cried until she was blind. It took too much effort for a family to raise a little killer whale. How sad would it be if it was lost? Will crying blind? A.O. Daisai's focus was very skewed. Xiao Qishi knew what he wanted to say and quickly clarified, I've always been pretending to cry. You don't have to worry too much. Fake. Oh, A.O. Daisai was relieved. I'll go and see what kind of killer whale he is, and then ask whose family lost their child. Xiao Qishi decided. He had always wanted to be chivalrous. This was the original intention of walking in the underworld. It was a pity that the things they encountered along the way were only suitable for breaking the law. This time, they finally encountered something that could be chivalrous. He was duty-bound. I'll go too. Gary had always been concerned about this matter. Under his calm appearance, he had a little scheme that no one knew about. Me. Although he didn't know what to do, AID responded positively. Anyway, he would go wherever everyone went. Anything is fine. Everyone had no opinion. So would this matter be as interesting as overturning a fishing boat? This time, no one asked for A.O. Daisai's opinion, because Yulashanda had spoken. As everyone knew, Yulashanda's decision was more important than A.O. Daisai's decision. Of course, the killer whales did not understand why A.O. Daisai was so strong and listened to Yulashanda. Who cared? They only knew that Yulashanda's decision was usually more interesting than A.O. Daisai's decision. The humans observed the little killer whale for a while in the spike-watching field and finally released him. His trainer, driving a small boat, accompanied him for a while and then completely let him go. Now, the only equipment that tracks the release of the little killer whale is a drone. And this drone is not from the oceanarium, but the relevant organization heard that there was a killer whale here and specifically came to understand. They paid more attention to the survival of the little killer whale than the oceanarium, but it was not optimistic. When the trainer withdrew, the little killer whale fell into a state of loneliness. The sense of deprivation in his heart should have reached its peak, and it would take some time to smooth it out. Even when he came to the vast world and freedom was close at hand, the little killer whale seemed to have lost his direction and only wandered around nearby, not daring to take bigger steps into the unfamiliar ocean. This was sad. Of course, researchers also hoped that some passing killer whale groups would take in the helpless little killer whale, but the chances were very small. It also took time to ferment, and people were worried that the little killer whale would not be able to survive this most difficult time. However, things soon had a turning point. The group of passing whales came back. They seemed to be coming straight for the little killer whale, and no one knew what they wanted to do. But this moment was undoubtedly very exciting. Perhaps the little killer whale could get some guidance and help. Xiao Qixi saw the released killer whale. The other party seemed to have noticed that there were killer whales coming, so he hid in the corner timidly. Only after a while did he poke his head out to peek at them. This group of killer whales was the only killer whale that paid attention to him, and the other passing killer whales ignored him. "You stay here and don't move. I'll talk to him." Diplomat Xiao, who knew many languages, told everyone in a very stylish manner. After all, he felt that this job was only for himself. It would not be good for anyone else. Okay, Ao Daisai agreed. It seemed that he was not afraid that other killer whales would harm Yulashanda. He was only afraid of humans. Xiao Qixi swam forward and said in a gentle voice, "Hello, little killer whale." He originally wanted to distinguish the sex of the killer whale from the other party's dorsal fin, but suddenly saw that the other party's dorsal fin fell weakly to the side and could not stand up at all. His heart was instantly stung. Was this still a killer whale? The little killer whale, who had been kept in captivity for several years and had never learned a language system at all, certainly couldn't understand what this strange killer whale was saying. He could hear that the voice was very kind and was speaking to him. The other party was willing to pay attention to him and communicate with him. The little killer whale didn't understand what the same race was. He only saw that Xiao Qixi was a killer whale like him. In his childhood memory, he also remembered that there were many killer whales. He was not alone anymore. His mood immediately became better. "I don't understand." Xiao Qixi quickly considered that the other party had been taken away at such a young age. He probably hadn't learned the language yet. "Let me see what kind of killer whale you are." As he spoke, he circled around the little killer whale. Judging from the size and eye spots, the Antarctic killer whale could be ruled out first, and it was not the Atlantic type 2 killer whale. Anyway, after ruling it out one by one, there were only a few kinds left. "Ao Daisai, come and help me. Can you tell what kind of killer whale he is?" Xiao Qixi looked around and had to temporarily put down his well-learned killer whale setting and turn to someone with more experience. "Okay," Ao Daisai agreed. Obviously, Yulashanda shouted Ao Daisai, but everyone rushed over like a swarm of bees. "Yulashanda, we're here to help you." Several pairs of eyes stared at the little killer whale with the light of research in their eyes, but they couldn't say anything for a long time. Well, they had never seen this kind of strange eye spot before. In the end, Ao Daisai was knowledgeable. He glanced at it and said, "This is a killer whale in the Atlantic." Everyone's first reaction was to observe their eye spots. Even a fool could see that they were very different. Ao Daisai's was triangular, and the little killer whale's was parallel. "Oh, there are two kinds of killer whales in the Atlantic. He may be another kind." Xiao Qixi knew this and asked at the same time, "You've been traveling all over the world for so many years, don't you know? We rarely go to the Atlantic." Everyone glanced at Ao Daisai intentionally or unintentionally. It seemed that the reason why they didn't go to the Atlantic was that Ao Daisai didn't like it. Xiao Qixi was surprised. "Was it Ao Daisai? Do you resist going to the Atlantic?" If so, they had to consider how to help the little killer whale. No, Ao Daisai didn't resist and didn't feel anything. He even asked the little cutie, "Do you want to go there?" The scenery in his memory was not bad. Yulashanda should like it. "Well, what if I meet your relatives?" Xiao Qixi rubbed his hands. Of course, it was just in his imagination. He could move his pectoral fins at most. Anyway, meeting the parents was a kind of pressure. He was still young, and he wasn't ready yet. I'm shy. Why are you shy? Ao Daisai threw a heavy bomb. You've met my relatives a long time ago. What? Xiao Qishi's eyes widened. Really? When? Ah, no way. Ao Daisai, tell me clearly. When have I met your relatives? Why didn't this guy say anything? When we met the polar bear, Ao Daisai briefly told him about meeting his mother and sister. Xiao Qishi tried to recall and was stunned. You mean when I had half a pig's face? Pig's face? Ao Daisai had seen a wild boar before. He recalled the appearance of the little bear in his mind. It did look a bit like a pig. Yes, he said firmly. You might as well shut up. You might as well not tell me. Are you the devil? He's gone. He's dead. Don't cue him. Boo-hoo-hoo. All the killer whales gathered around, including the sad and helpless little killer whale. They were collectively thinking, what happened to him? Why is he crying so sadly? He's so pitiful. Xiao Qishi, I'm fine. I've only cracked it open. Fortunately, he was thick-skinned and could stick himself together piece by piece and continue to deal with the problem in front of him. Then let's go to the Atlantic Ocean and send this little cub home. Does anyone have any objections? Xiao Qishi called out, and, of course, she would explain the pros and cons to everyone clearly. You have to think carefully before you say the answer. This little killer whale is not in good condition. If we decide to take over, we have to ensure that he eats, drinks, and defecates. We may even have to coax him to sleep. Oh, Ao Daisai treated you like this. We may not be able to find his kin in the Atlantic Ocean. This will be a very difficult task, but it's very meaningful. What is the meaning of this? Strange question, N+1. Xiao Qishi, how to explain this? We won't be bored during this period of time. We have a lot of things to do. What everyone was concerned about was not the illusory meaning, but the real impact on them. Killer whales didn't have much. They had the most time, and they often felt bored. As long as they had nothing to talk about, they would cause trouble. Once they did something, they would cause public anger and become notorious. This was what a vicious cycle meant. I agree. I haven't been to the Atlantic Ocean yet. Let's go, Carrie said. Me too. Listen to you. Let's go to Ao Daisai's hometown. Everyone was chattering and expressing their opinions. Bullshit. It was very lively for a while. The little killer whale forgot his sadness. He opened his round eyes full of innocence and looked at the killer whale on his left for a while, and then looked at the killer whale on his right. He felt that he had become a part of them and was not lonely at all. After a while, the drone took a picture of 7 passing whales taking the little killer whale away. The author has something to say. Xiao Xiao. I cracked. I glued myself together again. Chapter 107. Had the little killer whale really been taken away? Yes, people who learned the news felt very magical, but more than that, they were happy and gratified. Great, there's an inclusive group of killer whales willing to accept this little killer whale. In fact, many similar things have happened before, and the results have been satisfactory and regretful. Many years ago, there was a poor killer whale who was released after reaching adulthood. At that time, he was very unfamiliar with the ocean and was at a loss. Perhaps the released person found a suitable sea area for him to live in, where there were many killer whales of the same type. During the long adaptation period, many killer whales of the same kind came to care about the released killer whale, but they could never live together. In the end, the killer whale was still alone. When he was lonely, he didn't miss his own kind, but the humans who had accompanied him for a long time. The little killer whale that is now released is still young, and he has not established a very close dependence with humans. This can be seen from his easy departure with his killer whale that is not of the same species. Xiao Qishi, I'm also puzzled. When a group of people made a plan to kidnap a baby, he thought so. Children must be greedy. Catching a seal to lure them would be easy. Unfortunately, there were no seals around, and the killer whales were too lazy to go farther to find them. So they just caught a big fish. It can only be said that the little killer whale was really easy to coax. He was very happy to see the big fish, but he didn't eat it for a long time. Sure enough, he still had to be fed. This was easy. I'll do it. Carrie rushed to be the first, and he was very active in dividing the big fish into two. No, then two into four. Eat quickly, eat quickly. Seeing Carrie so active in feeding the little killer whale, Xiao Qixi smiled as if he had taken a big advantage. Wasn't that right? He wanted to pet the little killer whale, but he didn't want to work. Now, Carrie was willing to be a nanny. What else could he say? He doesn't have a name yet. How about we give him a name? Everyone surrounded the little killer whale who was eating and began to give names. The killer whales were very willing to participate in this kind of thing that could show their culture. However, their culture was really limited. Many of the names that were thrown out were names that they had heard before, so they rejected each other. Barry, no. This pronunciation is too common. Half of the Pacific Ocean's killer whales are called Barry. There were such examples beside him. The pronunciation was very similar. Tony, no. Xiao Qixi objected. Everyone looked at him. He had to give a reason for rejecting a name. Why not? Xiao Qixi was dumbfounded. What reason could she give? Well, she couldn't possibly tell this group of killer whales that Tony was a hairdresser's special name. First of all, did they know how to cut hair? He could only bite the bullet and come up with one. This name is not good. It doesn't have a good meaning. The little killer whale needs a name that is good for him. He gave a hint. For example, something related to physical strength and health. The surroundings were quiet for a moment, as if they were deep in thought. On the other hand, Gary, who was not cultured enough, was tossing and turning in the water. One moment he was tossing to the left, the next moment he was tossing to the right. Finally, he thought of something. How is George? That's the name of a pig on land. Xiao Qixi blurted out. What is a pig? There were no pigs in the ocean. They had never seen a pig, so they had no idea at all. It's a kind of food, A.O. Daisai explained for little cutie. Oh, that's really not good. How could a killer whale take the name of a food? How about Herbie? In order to prevent them from coming up with some strange names to make fun of themselves, Xiao Qixi also joined the list of names. Herbie means warrior. Of course, a warrior had a strong body and an iron will. The killer whales pondered carefully. Yes, this pronunciation is very strange. There are very few killer whales in the ocean called Herbie. Then let's call him Herbie. Herbie. The little killer whale, who was surrounded by a group of big killer whales, said regardless of whether he could understand or not, he knew that the other party was communicating with him, so he was very happy. Herbie swam shyly in the water. He still maintained his previous habit of swimming very slowly and did not dare to make any big movements. In everyone's eyes, he was strange, but no one disliked him. With a name and fish, they continued on their way. At first, Herbie did not dare to swim too fast for fear of hitting his head. But later, Herbie found that as long as he swam a little slower, he could not keep up with everyone. He was very afraid of losing them, so he could only force himself to swim faster and faster. In fact, Xiao Qixi and the others swam very slowly. After all, they were not a group of hard-working killer whales. They were used to swimming wherever they went. However, for killer whales in captivity, their speed was still far beyond their reach. So the most important thing for little Herbie now was to learn swimming skills. Herbie is so miserable. He can't even swim. The killer whales sighed angrily. Let me teach him how to swim. It was time to hunt again. Carrie used this reason to decline the invitation to go hunting together. Anyway, 6 killer whales were enough. Maybe if they were lucky, they could bring back several seals. A.O. Daisai did not express his opinion. It seemed that to him, it was the same whether Carrie participated or not. Okay, then I'll leave it to you, Carrie. Xiao Qixi trusted Carrie, who liked to take care of children, but he neglected a detail. When the large group left quickly, Herbie hurriedly caught up with them. He even let out a helpless cry, which broke the hearts of the handsome men in suits. No, I didn't abandon you. I'm still here, aren't I? Carrie stomped his feet, although he did not have feet. Really, he had been the main force taking care of Herbie these days. Why did Herbie still prefer to follow other companions? Carrie, the hard-working old father, muttered in his heart and swam in front of Herbie to block him. He knew that Herbie could not understand, but he still talked a lot. They'll be back soon. Come, let's learn how to swim, little guy. Carrie's swimming skills were undoubtedly excellent. It was more than enough to teach this little guy. Herbie seemed to have realized that Carrie was accompanying him. He slowly quieted down and focused on Carrie. Yes. Look at me. I like you the most. They don't like you, you know. Carrie knew that the other companions did not want to play with Herbie. He was the only one who was the most enthusiastic. Herbie blinked his eyes. Although he didn't understand, as Gary had said, enthusiasm was easy to feel. I like you. They don't like you. Do you understand? Carrie took the opportunity to instill ideas into the child's head. Carrie, what nonsense are you talking about? Xiao Qishi thought about it and rushed back to help. However, he heard that Carrie was teaching the child bad things. He was angry. Why are you talking to Herbie about this? How do we not like him? Carrie, who was caught red-handed, was stunned. Then, he said in a righteous voice, I didn't say anything wrong. Do you have the guts to say it again? Xiao Qishi clenched his fists and decided to teach this guy a lesson. I didn't say anything wrong. Sob, what are you trying to do? Although Carrie said it again, his voice was very soft because he realized that Yulashanda was going to beat him up. I'll help. Yulashanda is going to murder me. No one will come to save you even if you scream yourself hoarse. Xiao Qishi chased after Carrie and reminded him. Did he not know what kind of person he was? In this group, beating up Carrie was something that everyone liked to see. No one would pity him. Herbie had never seen a fight before and did not know what it meant. He only knew that it looked very lively. He liked it. His companions, who were hunting in the distance, received the signal that Yulashanda is beating up Carrie. Everyone. Yulashanda was such a gentle killer whale. Usually, he would not beat anyone up at all. For Alisanda to be so angry, it could only be said that Gary deserved it. Didn't he deserve it? The next time you talk nonsense to Herbie like this, I will use a sea anemone to block your vent. Xiao Qishi gave Carrie a beating and added a threat. Sob, the sea anemone is poisonous. It would be very uncomfortable to have it blocked. So do you dare to do it again? Xiao Qishi wanted to be more strict, but after a while, he laughed. He did not know that this guy was hiding such a selfish motive. He was angry and amused at the same time. Okay. I won't dare to do it again, Carrie replied. However, he did not sound sincere at all. Xiao Qishi suspected that when he fought with him just now, the other party did not use much strength. Was it because he was guilty and did not dare to fight back? Or was it because he was a gentleman and did not want to argue with him? No, he was afraid of Ao Daisai's revenge. Ao Daisai is much more painful than Yulashanda. I'm going to teach Herbie how to swim. When he found that Yulashanda was not moving, Carrie ran away quickly. Next, Xiao Qishi looked at them from the side, like a supervisor. He looked very dignified. Carrie honestly and diligently taught a stupid student who did not speak the same language as him. Yes, stupid. After all, Herbie had a lot of habits that needed to be corrected. Not only his habits of action, but also his habits of psychology. The effect would definitely be very, very slow. If it was an ordinary teacher, he would probably be angry. How could there be such a stupid student? Carrie was not. Whether it was a brother or a father, Carrie was unexpectedly qualified. This made Xiao Qishi quite surprised. With the attitude of learning happily and not letting the child feel pressured, after half an hour, Xiao Qishi informed them that the class could be dismissed. Then he took the little killer whale to drill in the sand and eat snacks. It was not just for fun. It could also train his diving skills. The little guy who had always lived in the swimming pool probably had not tried staying underwater for a long time. The difference in water pressure would make the body feel different, which needed to be adapted slowly. After playing for 20 minutes, they went back to study. The drone took pictures of them splitting into two groups. One group went hunting, and the other group took care of the child. They got along very well. What a group of loving and smart killer whales. Thank you for their existence. After a period of adaptation and learning, the little killer whale's swimming skills and diving ability improved visibly. It was just that his language was not very good. There was almost no progress, but it did not affect him. It was good enough that he could keep up with their moving speed. On the way to the Atlantic Ocean, there were also many ships. Sometimes, when encountering human boats, Herbie would show great enthusiasm and wanted to go forward and take a look. If he saw humans, he would be very happy to see humans, especially those who came to the sea to dive. Herbie would follow behind the humans and use his mouth to push against their feet. This was his memory from the aquarium. Usually, diving humans would also like to play with him, but they might be very confused. Why was this killer whale the only one playing with him? And the others were eyeing him covetously. Well, it was very much like a parent looking at a child. Diving human, don't worry, I won't hurt him. Woo-woo, I'm afraid he'll hurt me. Although Herbie liked boats and liked to play with humans, he always understood that he would never go back to the small swimming pool. When he had enough fun, he would leave with his companions. Why does Herbie like boats and humans? The handsome men in suits were very curious. Shouldn't he hate them? After all, humans took Herbie away and made him lose his freedom and family. Because he was raised by humans. Of course, there will be feelings when you get along day and night. Just like how I get along with you day and night, I will be reluctant to leave. Xiao Qi gave an example that everyone understood. Leave. The killer whales were very serious. Yulashanda, are you leaving? When? Why? Yulashanda quickly said, No, I'm just making an analogy. Then he thought about it and added, Don't ask me what the analogy is. In short, I'm not leaving. Then why did you say that? Everyone seemed to mind this very much. Xiao Qi was stunned for a moment. Then a big smile appeared in her heart. She felt honored and warm. Look at your big reaction. It's because you can't bear to leave me. Herbie has more or less the same feelings towards humans. The difference is that Herbie knows where he belongs in the end. Herbie knew his name. Xiao Qi had mentioned him several times, so he looked at Xiao Qi attentively. Good Herbie. Xiao Qi rubbed against him, giving him brotherly warmth. However, they were quickly separated by Ao Daisai. It seemed that they were not allowed to get too close. Herbie was quite afraid of Ao Daisai. Whenever this happened, he would obediently hide beside Carrie. Now, his favorite killer whales were Carrie and Xiao Qi. Don't scare the little kid, Xiao Qi mumbled. I didn't. Ao Daisai refused to admit it. The sound of waves came, and dusk came again. Flocks of all kinds of seabirds gathered on the surface of the sea, waiting for the arrival of the feast. They passed by a group of killer whales, hesitating whether to pass through here. Unfortunately, they encountered a very large family hunting here. At a glance, there should be dozens or hundreds of killer whales. Wow, there are so many of them. Balala exclaimed and asked uncertainly, Are we going to pass through here? Will they offend them? No. Ao Daisai did not like noisy environments. He decided, Let's take a detour. Wait. Xiao Qi asked everyone to wait for him here. He remembered that he had something to do. I'll make a broadcast. There were so many killer whales here that he did not need to divert them. It would be a waste not to broadcast. Xiao Qi, hey. Good afternoon, everyone. Did anyone lose their cub a few years ago? Or do you know anyone who is looking for their children? If you know, please inform me. Thank you. He made such a broadcast 3 times in 3 different languages. After that, Xiao Qi did not have any hope. He knew that the ocean was so big that the road to finding relatives would not be so smooth. However, he still had to do what he had to do. The result was not unexpected. There was no miracle as he had imagined, but it was not as bad as he had imagined. The group of killer whales seemed to understand his language. Finally, a relatively old voice answered him, indicating that their group did not lose their children and asked him to go somewhere else to ask. Xiao Qi was excited. Thank you. Aha. His foreign language finally had a response. It was not in vain to keep learning. Cool guy group. Yulashanda is awesome. Herbie. The little guy looked confused. He didn't know anything. Everyone called him. Xiao Qi told his companions about the exchange. This family did not lose their children. Let's continue. They had not officially entered the Atlantic Ocean yet. He was just asking casually, What if? The passing whales came like a swarm of bees. When they met other killer whales for dinner, they politely swarmed away. It was dark, and the temperature of the sea started to drop. However, there was a limit to how much it dropped in this month. The temperature of the sea was still very comfortable. The drones were off-duty and suitable for doing shady things. At around 9 o'clock p.m. in the human world, Carrie coaxed little Herbie to sleep. The other companions had already quieted down. Xiao Qixi finally agreed to Ao Daisai's invitation and followed her to spend the night somewhere else. He did not dare to leave before, because he was afraid that Herbie would follow him. This was the true portrayal of the nightlife of a young couple with a child. The child was nothing if he did not sleep. Ever since they left the cold Arctic Ocean, their nightlife had been very regular. They would do it once every 3 to 5 days, at most 5 days. Most of the time, it would be 2 or 3 days. Unless Ao Daisai was too excited or provoked and insisted on staying up all night with him, they would rest for 4 or 5 days. Most of the time, Xiao Qixi, who was so tired that she fell asleep in seconds, actually wanted to say, "You can't do this just because you are young. You will feel weak." A steady stream is the way of the king. However, she forgot about it after she woke up. The next time he was hugged by Ao Daisai and looked at with doting eyes, he would still choose to submit to her without any principles. Moreover, Ao Daisai knew how to say sweet words. Just a few words could make his tail go soft and let her do whatever she wanted. Now, Ao Daisai even learned how to complain. She hit his tail and said unhappily, "Your gaze on me is decreasing. Listen to this pitiful accusation." It's not like that. It's just that a lot of things have happened recently. Sob. Xiao Qixi quickly explained and kissed her. "I have been looking at you, Ao Daisai." As expected, the resentment on her body disappeared by half. The remaining small part was probably because she was really unhappy and not because she wanted to attract his attention. "I like you so much. I like to be intimate with you. You are so awesome." Yulashanda could only endure her shame and say a lot of good things that males like to hear. Ao Daisai was quite proud and a little difficult to coax. He was not as gullible as Jelly and the others. He had his own cognition and personality. He knew that many things were not that simple. They were intimate for about 2 hours tonight. The turbid liquid that could create a small killer whale slowly dispersed in the sea. Xiao Qixi quickly swam away. Every time this happened, he always felt very shy and thought, what a waste. If he was reincarnated as a female killer whale in this life, he would probably have a baby by now. Ao Daisai, if I am pregnant, will you be happy? Yulashanda asked her boyfriend. You are pregnant? Ao Daisai answered, yes. He would be very happy, even if the baby's existence would distract some of the little cutie's attention. The next morning, Ao Daisai let it slip in front of everyone. So all the killer whales knew that Yulashanda was pregnant. On the surface, everyone looked very surprised. Everyone secretly thought, Ao Daisai is so stupid. Even D knows that only females can get pregnant. Xiao Qixi heard them whispering, you are really one person in front of others and another behind their backs. Also, you are the stupid ones. Couldn't you tell that Ao Daisai was joking? Yeah, Ao Daisai knows how to joke. Yes, Ao Daisai was joking. He knew better than anyone that the little cutie he liked would not be pregnant. If she was pregnant, would she wait until today? The little polar bear and the little lion would have already given birth to a lot of babies. Ao Daisai, cooperating with my wife is what I should do. Happy Lantern Festival. I saw that everyone was asking me how many bottles of nutrient solution I have now. It is now 250,000 bottles. Also, this unit will probably end in a few days. Don't worry, the next unit will come soon. Chapter 108. As long as Xiao Qixi met a killer whale along the way, he would start his broadcast over and over again. The other killer whales were also very familiar with this broadcast and knew how to speak. One morning, they encountered a group of killer whales on the road again. Before Xiao Qixi could ask, his other companions began to broadcast from afar. Xiao Qixi. Okay, I'm very pleased. If you can do it, you can do it. But they only knew how to speak and would not listen to the other party's response. This matter still had to be done by Yolashanda. After getting a response from the other side, Barara ran back excitedly and asked, "What did he say?" Yolashanda, tell me quickly, what did he say? Gary also pricked up his ears. At this moment, his heart was pounding. In fact, he did not want to find Herbie's family so quickly, but he did not dare to say it, because if he did, Yolashanda would definitely beat him up. Although he did not know where he was wrong, Gary was not wrong. They said that they had never heard of anyone losing a child. Well, look at the eye spots. They're not of the same kind. This is the same kind of killer whale as Ao Daisai. Herbie's type was very mysterious and rare. He did not know how humans found him in the first place. Ao Daisai's kind? Does Ao Daisai know him? The captain was like a steady big brother. He said earnestly, "Since you have returned to the Atlantic Ocean, do you want to go home and take a look?" Only the captain dared to say such words. The other killer whales did not dare to say anything at all. They did not have the courage to meddle in Ao Daisai's business. Let's talk about little Herbie. No need. Ao Daisai was quite puzzled. Why did he want to go home and take a look? He felt that it was unnecessary because he had not spent much time with his relatives and he had not established a close relationship with them. This time, it was different from the lion's encounter. In his previous life, Ao Daisai and the Lion brothers had really established a relationship, but after becoming a killer whale's family, they were not fated to be together. We'll see how it goes. If we meet, we'll say hello. Maybe we can even have a meal together, Xiao Qixi said. She seemed to have thought it through. In any case, such a chance encounter was still beautiful. Okay. Ao Daisai immediately changed his tone and was extremely obedient. Cool guy group. Am Ao Daisai, you can't. On nights when they were not dating, Xiao Qixi also liked to chat with Herbie and coax him to sleep. However, it was very awkward to talk to herself. In order to make herself feel less awkward, Xiao Qixi decided to talk about something meaningful. For example, an interesting story. These were all ready-made. With a little change in the language of the killer whales, a short story could be made to last the whole night. Elementary school students were familiar with the story of the tortoise and the hare. This story was very suitable to be told to children. We know about tortoises, but what about rabbits? Is it a sea hare? The big friend beside him kept interrupting. You haven't seen it before. It's a land animal that eats grass. Ao Daisai had seen rabbits before and often caught them for Yolashanda to play with. When he got tired of playing with them, he would eat them. He recalled, the taste is not bad. No, Ao Daisai, you haven't been to the land either. How do you know about rabbits? He had eaten them before. D*M in it. Everyone was unhappy. Ao Daisai was too lazy to explain. Anyway, he had eaten and played with them. If he was unhappy, he would hold it in. Xiao Qixi, don't be noisy. Can you listen to me? He forbade all the killer whales to interrupt and listen to the story for him. Herbie was the most obedient. He would only look at them with his eyes wide open. The killer whales knew about the race. Wasn't it just a competition of who was faster? They often competed. Xiao Qixi. The rabbit thought that he could easily outrun the tortoise. He thought that the victory of the game was in his hands and didn't take it seriously at all. In the end, the tortoise won the game and the rabbit lost. The rabbit was very unwilling. This story tells us that we should never underestimate our opponents. Little cutie, the land tortoise crawls very slowly. It's impossible for him to win against the rabbit. Ao Daisai had caught a grassland rabbit before. He knew how fast this thing could run. He had also seen land tortoises. They were really slow. I already said that it was because the rabbit underestimated his opponent. He was very arrogant, so he lost the game. Xiao Qixi said, the rabbit doesn't have this IQ. He won't underestimate his opponent. He will run away at the slightest sign of trouble. Ao Daisai was realistic. I'm not talking to you anymore. Xiao Qixi didn't want to take Ao Daisai seriously. This was a personified fable. Let's talk about the next story. The new story is about the Little Mermaid. In order to prevent you from arguing with me, I have to make it clear to you that this is a fictional story. There are no mermaids in the ocean. With Yulashanda's gentle voice, Herbie slowly fell asleep. However, the 6 killer whales next to him were very energetic. They all pricked up their ears and listened with great interest. This story that happened in the ocean also inspired some of their thoughts. In summary, The Little Mermaid was the story of the princess and the scumbag. Normal people would feel indignant and angry for the Little Mermaid and want to tear the scumbag apart with their bare hands. When the killer whales heard this, they thought of all kinds of questions that humans wouldn't think of. The intoxicated Balala. Is the Little Mermaid a clam shell? Only clams could produce pearls. Xiao Qixi. No. I already said that it's fictional. Gary. Fish are human food. It turns out that humans date their own food. Xiao Qixi. Nope. Not. They are in a pure platonic relationship. They haven't reached that stage yet. Can you LSPs not think about dating? Also, after hearing such a tragic story, shouldn't there be a lot of sighs? Sighs? Why should there be sighs? The killer whales didn't sigh. After all, Yulashanda said that it was a fictional story, so it was fake. Heartbreaking. Friends who read novels and watch dramas, you don't see it as clearly as a group of killer whales. Commander, Yulashanda. Is there any other story? Yulashanda wanted to say yes, but when he looked up at the moon, it was already very late at night. Isn't everyone sleepy? Hurry up and go to sleep, or you'll have dark circles tomorrow. Anyway, he was sleepy and didn't want to tell stories anymore. Dark circles? The killer whales thought of their companions. Who didn't have dark circles? Xiao Qixi didn't care about them. In short, they closed their eyes and pretended to be dead. If they quarreled again, Ao Daisai would solve it. After the story was told that night, the killer whales fell in love with Yulashanda's story. They wanted to listen to it before they went to sleep and when they were roaming on the road. Anyway, as long as they were free, they wanted to listen to stories. Xiao Qixi also wanted to improve the killer whale's vocabulary and imagination through these stories, so that communication would be smoother. This was a good thing. However, the story couldn't be told randomly. A phase plan was needed. He planned to start with some simple stories. Elementary, something suitable for elementary school students. Intermediate, junior high school students, advanced, and high school students. The highest level college students. Yulashanda felt that the killer whales couldn't reach the level of understanding of college students, so this part could be crossed out. When Yulashanda was a primary school student, his reading was quite large, and there were many stories stored in his head. However, these stories had one thing in common, which was that they were very short and could be finished in 2 or 3 seconds. The killer whales who were exposed to storytelling content for the first time were like novice readers who had just come into contact with online novels. They were not very picky about the content of the story, but the number of updates must be large. Just as he finished telling a story about Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf, the group of cool guys, more Yulashanda. Xiao Qixi, don't worry. Let's first summarize the principles that this story has taught us. Telling stories was not for entertainment. They definitely had to learn something. Carrie pondered for a moment and said, "Are humans delicious?" "No. Forget it. Let's skip this one." Xiao Qixi cried and started to regret telling this story. He could only use a new story to wash away the impression of the previous story. Next, let's talk about the story of the ugly duckling. The ugly duckling, the crow drinking water, the farmer, and the snake. After telling them one by one, Yulashanda asked, "Do you still remember Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf?" A, B, C, D. Yes. Air. Yulashanda took a deep breath. Sigh. If the children in school had as good a memory as you, would the teachers and parents still have to worry? Sob. In a month's time, he finished telling all the elementary school stories. Herbie's vocabulary had increased a little, and he could probably understand some simple words. Eat, sleep, sigh. There was also Carrie. This was definitely knowledge that Carrie had taught Herbie behind everyone's back. Xiao Qixi was not jealous at all, because he had also secretly taught Herbie his name behind everyone's back. However, the pronunciation of his name was rather long, and the stupid Herbie could not remember it. This really could not be blamed on anyone. It was the child himself who was disappointing. When Herbie said Carrie's name for the first time, Carrie was so happy that he almost went crazy. He ran many rounds around everyone. Seeing him like this, Xiao Qi could not help but think of some cute humans. When something happy happened, they would also do the same. Run 3 rounds downstairs. Herbie was also very happy. He chased behind Carrie's butt. Ah, 2 childish brats. Yelashanda thought to himself, I don't want to join in and play with them. After a while, forget it. Xiao Qi, who felt that he was still a baby, also joined in on this craziness. Eddie looked sideways. What are you doing? It looked like it was fun. Eddie also wanted to join in. The last cry was a little sad because the despicable Ao Daisai had pushed him away. It was his turn to chase behind Yelashanda. Of course, he was not silly. He just could not stand Eddie chasing his little cutie. Xiao Qi! Exclamation point. He thought of his school days. At first, there were only a few people running. Later, more and more people joined in, and the scene became grand. Researchers, hey, the data taken today is a little strange. Everyone look, 8 killer whales are in a circle, and they keep running in circles. What are they doing? The researchers would never know that they were just celebrating that the little killer whale had learned to call out the names of its companions. That was all. Although storytelling was useless for Herbie and could not improve his language skills, it was very useful for the study companions. Vocabulary and imagination were up. Before entering junior high school, Yelashanda was going to do a test for entering junior high school. It was very simple. They just had to ask a few questions. They started from the oldest to the youngest, and the head went first. AI Lee, if you were an ugly killer whale and were laughed at by everyone, what would you do? The head did not hesitate. Beat them up. Mr. Chow commented on this student. His imagination and understanding are good. He can bring himself into the situation. Conclusion. Behavior is like a killer whale. Normal IQ. Balala, if one day you can't hunt by yourself, what will you do to fill your stomach? Balala bumped into Gary, who was closest to him. Steal Gary's food. Mr. Chow commented on the student. You can't even hunt. How can you steal things? Conclusion. Low IQ. Gary, if you were Little Red Riding Hood, would you open the door for the big bad wolf? Gary was proud. I would eat the big bad wolf. He would not wait for the big bad wolf to eat him. How could that be possible? Mr. Chow commented on the student. Lack of imagination. Excessive self-awareness. Likes to be self-centered. Conclusion. Average IQ. More conceited. Daya, if you were a shark, how do you think you can effectively escape from a killer whale when you're being chased? Daya's question was more in-depth because Yelashanda had always known that Daya was very intelligent. He was one of the most promising killer whales in the early stage of junior promotion. That's impossible. Before Daya could answer, Balala and Gary could not wait to interrupt. Sharks can't escape from killer whales. They run slowly and are stupid. Yes, it's impossible. Even Eddie knows. Eddie was very clear about his position. Yelashanda, don't interrupt. Daya looked up at the sky. This group of idiots. Yelashanda is not asking you. Balala, Gary, Eddie, shut up. Oh, Daisai ordered. Only then did the scene quiet down. Daya began to answer Yelashanda's question. Sharks are stupid. When they are being hunted by killer whales, they will only charge forward. If I were a shark, I would become very stupid too. So I can't escape. The other killer whales skipped the first part and directly praised the last sentence. That's right. You can't escape. Okay, Daya. Teacher Chow commented on the student. Outstanding intelligence. Unlimited potential. Not bad. There should be applause. Eddie, forget it. You don't have to take the test. Xiao Qi directly gave him a score based on the performance he observed just now. The student's intelligence is hard to explain in words. He's a fence sitter. He will run wherever the wind blows. Eddie, why? Sigh. Xiao Qi ignored the dissatisfied Eddie and directly asked the last student. Ao Daisai, if you were a snake, would you bite your savior to death? Yes. Ao Daisai answered without blinking. Why? Xiao Qi was surprised. She thought that Otis would say that he didn't know how to do it. Why? He is not my kind. He is stronger than me. I don't trust him, Ao Daisai answered. Teacher Chiao's face was serious. Is there anything else to add, classmate? He gave Ao Daisai a chance. If it was only these few sentences, the score would not be higher than Dai's. Do you want to say more? Well, Ao Daisai said, you taught us that poisonous snakes have a fierce temperament. When I become a poisonous snake, it is normal to bite a farmer to death. He tried to answer, are you satisfied now? In fact, this point was a little similar to Dai's answer. Xiao Qishi shook his head and sighed. It seemed that Ao Daisai could at most be on par with Daya. But after a moment of silence, Ao Daisai spoke again. I also hope to have a high IQ when I become the next animal, but we can't decide this. Little cutie, your question itself is a little silly, because there are no ifs. The author has something to say. Teacher Chiao, student Ao Daisai 0, Ao Daisai. Little cutie, can't you afford to play? Chapter 109. Xiao Qishi was stunned by Ao Daisai's words. Admittedly, he had long known that Ao Daisai had the advantage of accumulation, but he still felt that animals would never be able to get rid of their natural thinking and eventually think like humans. The first two answers prove this point. Whether it was Ao Daisai or Daya, they were both limited by their animal instincts to look at problems. However, this was already the peak. It belonged to a very powerful category. Who knew that Ao Daisai's true depth had actually reached the point where he could see through the essence of things. If the same question was asked to many humans, they might not be able to get a better answer. How is it? Are you satisfied? Ao Daisai was different from humans in that he answered these questions just to make Xiao Qishi happy. He did not feel that these questions were worth discussing. Their world was that simple. There was no need to think so much. When they encountered problems, they could solve them by force. If force could not solve the problem, they needed to use their brains. Pretty good, Xiao Qishi murmured. After the shock, he felt that the smarter Ao Daisai was, the better. This was a good thing. However, he would have to think twice in the future and not casually trick the other party. Thinking about it this way, wouldn't many of his previous little tricks be useless in front of the other party? He immediately blushed. Of course, he knew that this partner of his, whose way of thinking was completely different from his own, would definitely not think so much. Maybe in the other party's eyes, everything he did was cute. As they discussed, the other killer whales were also whispering. Bolero was very curious. What are Ao Daisai and Yulashanda talking about? Why can't I understand? Daya said, of course you don't understand. He hid half of the truth in his heart. Because you're stupid. Humph, don't tell me you understand. Bolero retorted bluntly. He only knew a little. However, these conversations did give Daya a new way of thinking and made him realize that he could still think about problems this way. He had always known that Ao Daisai was very smart. In fact, there was no way to gain the right to speak in this group by relying on brute force alone. Ao Daisai relied on comprehensive abilities. Yulashanda was also a special killer whale, more special than any of them. This was why everyone liked Yulashanda. Once they entered the Atlantic Ocean, the search for relatives had to have a set of rules. They were no longer running around and searching without a head or brain. In Yulashanda's words, they should conduct a carpet search. Not a single corner was spared. In fact, it was a more efficient plan for everyone to search separately, but the group of passing whales didn't want to separate at all. Or they could split up and be in the same group as Yulashanda. Hee hee, Xiao Qishi thought to herself. You guys are just craving for my story. The fables suitable for elementary school students came to an end, and considering the acceptance of the killer whales, he has recently begun to tell long stories about animals. What is the most famous animal-related novel in our country? Of course, it is Journey to the West. In order to prevent the killer whales from arguing, Xiao Qishi repeatedly stated at the beginning that this was a fictional story. Fictional, fictional, fictional. Well, with this big premise, although the killer whales don't fight anymore, they have a new problem. For example, Carrie said, "Killer whales are so powerful. Why don't they be the protagonists of the story?" Maybe in Carrie's mind, she was the center of the universe. No one was more powerful than them. Xiao Qi. This story is made up by humans. A long time ago, humans didn't know much about killer whales. They didn't know that you guys were very powerful. Even if they knew that you guys were very powerful, you guys couldn't be the protagonists of the story. At most, you guys could only be the villains. Well, you guys are the demons who are slain. The information in this paragraph seemed to be a bit complicated. Balala was like a poor student who only knew how to copy homework. He lazily turned his head and asked Daya, "What is he talking about?" He seems to be saying that in the hearts of humans, killer whales are not even as good as monkeys. Daya thought for a moment. In fact, he couldn't say that, but it was too troublesome to explain, so Xiao Qi chose to acquiesce. The myths of ancient times have been deeply rooted in people's hearts, and the people were familiar with the 12 zodiac signs. Of course, the author had to consider the acceptance of the people when writing a story. Killer whales were a new group that was only studied in postmodern times. People knew about them too late, and there were very few stories about them. Even the stories of other large whales were much more numerous than those of killer whales. Don't be discouraged. There will definitely be more stories about you guys in the future, Xiao Qi said. If he had a chance in the future, he would definitely write a story about killer whales. The days slowly slipped away as they listened to long stories and searched for their relatives. Suddenly, one day, while they were eating, they found that Herbie's dorsal fin was half standing up. They were so happy that to celebrate this, they caught another seal for Herbie to eat. The killer whales firmly believed that Herbie became better after eating the seal's dorsal fin. Herbie was also very happy that his dorsal fin was standing up. This was more helpful for his swimming and made his body more peaceful. Herbie, the simple-minded child, shouted his name, expressing his happiness. Yolashanda suddenly thought of Groot, the little sapling who only knew how to say, "I am Groot." Stupid Herbie was similar to him. He had a very small vocabulary and only knew how to call out everyone's names. But who cared? He had to admit that even Eddie could find confidence in Herbie. Xiao Qi, where's your shame? How shameless. Actually, he didn't seriously search for his relatives every day. Sometimes, when he came across an interesting geographical location, he would play for a whole day. Search for his relatives? What was that? At first, Xiao Qi was quite anxious. Time was precious. It had been 3 months, and there was no progress. Weren't you guys anxious? Later, he thought about it. Herbie himself wasn't anxious and was playing happily. Why should he be anxious? Forget it. Feelings were accumulated over time. After getting along for 3 months, this group of handsome men in suits liked Herbie more and more. Now, everyone was willing to play with Herbie, except for Ao Daisai. Because Ao Daisai was busy, he wanted to play with his little cutie. At this moment, the two of them came to the shallow beach. They were about to drill into the sand, but from afar, they realized that something was wrong. Ao Daisai, look at the shore. Is that a killer whale? They didn't need to be too close to the shore to play, so they were a little far away. Xiao Qi couldn't tell if the black spot he saw was a stone or something else. It was too far away. Ao Daisai couldn't see clearly either. He didn't like to meddle in other people's business, but he still had a conscience. Let's go and take a look. Okay. 2 strong figures swam over. It turned out that the black spot Xiao Qi saw was indeed a killer whale. And there was more than one on the shore. There were 4 killer whales stranded on the shore. Their bodies were completely out of the water. It was a ghastly sight. How could this be? Xiao Qishi's voice tightened. He quickly said, "Can we save them?" Ao Daisai's reaction was very calm. The leading killer whale's sense of direction is wrong. It caused the other killer whales to be stranded on the shore. This might be an accident, or they might be sick. As for whether they could be saved, Ao Daisai didn't know. He couldn't judge the current situation of the 4 killer whales. We can only wait for the tide to rise. After thinking about it, he said this, indicating that there was no other way. Xiao Qi used the surrounding reefs, to carefully observe the water level. He said worriedly, "The tide here may only rise once in a long time." He had to think of another way. He looked at the sky. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration. He quickly called out to his friends, "Balala, Alio, come here, come here." Bring the drone to him. Balala and the others were playing nearby. They were having a good time when they suddenly heard Yulashanda's call. Although they didn't know what had happened, they could imagine it. Usually, when they called Yulashanda like this, it was because they had found something interesting. In the same way, Yulashanda must have found something interesting to call them over. Let's go and see what Yulashanda found. The killer whales didn't hesitate and moved like a swarm of bees. Congratulations, the drone that was following them was also following closely behind. Xiao Qishi looked up at the sky and began to pray that a staff member was watching the live broadcast and quickly found out that they needed help. "Please, Yulashanda, did you find anything interesting?" Eddie swam over happily. "I didn't find anything interesting. It's just that 4 killer whales are stranded and need your help." Xiao Qishi explained the situation. In an instant, the surroundings quieted down. This was a group of realistic killer whales. Before they came to a conclusion, they first checked the situation before saying helplessly, "We can't help them." Xiao Qishi, of course, knew. "Well, the water level is too low now. Let's stay here first. Let's see the situation first. We've done everything we can now. We can only pray for a miracle." It was a matter of life and death. The atmosphere in their team suddenly became heavy and tense. There was no more laughter. Every killer whale present hoped that the tide would rise quickly so that the 4 killer whales could quickly get away from the shore. They must be very uncomfortable on the shore. Gary began to talk about his experience of choking on the air. "Gary, you're uncomfortable on the shore not because of choking on the air, but because your weight is too heavy. Without the buoyancy of the water, your body can't stand it," Xiao Qishi said. Oh, Yulashanda was so smart. He must be right. The surroundings quieted down again. At this moment, it felt like every minute and every second was torture. It turned out that this was what it felt like to watch life pass by. Xiao Qishi stared intently at the shore. Later, he felt that it was too difficult for himself, so he simply looked away. After a few minutes, Eddie's voice sounded beside him. "Why hasn't the tide risen yet?" Sigh. And the sun came out and directly basked the beached killer whales. For the first time, everyone hated the warm sun. They couldn't help but think that it would be nice if it was night now. The November sea breeze was also a little annoying. It would blow away the moisture on the surface of the killer whale's skin. Suddenly, Balala exclaimed, "Look, there's a human on the shore." Xiao Qishi looked over and saw a human. That person's reaction was very exaggerated. He seemed to be frightened by the scene in front of him. Wasn't that right? There were 4 beached killer whales. But so what if there was a human? Could he do anything? Yes. After the human came back to his senses, he seemed to immediately make a call. Then a pickup truck came. It seemed that he was preparing to go to the beach for a vacation to bask in the sun. He had some tools in his car. The killer whales saw a few more people coming down from the truck. They filled buckets with water and poured seawater on the beached killer whales. They took off their clothes and covered the killer whales' heads to help them keep wet. Is this useful? 8 pairs of big grape eyes were hidden in the nearby sea, watching the humans busily on the shore attentively. Well, they seemed to be worried about the beached killer whales. Why? Just as they were asking questions, another group of people came in a hurry. They brought more and better tools to extract seawater and give the killer whales more moisture. It seemed that the hope of being saved had increased a lot. Xiao Qishi looked at the sky again. Thank God. Did the drone work? Maybe it was a weekend. There were many humans here for vacation. They joined the ranks of getting water to wet the killer whales. Although it was not necessarily useful, it was thoughtful. In the common worry of the humans and the killer whales, time passed bit by bit. Their confidence in waiting for the tide to rise doubled, because the tide would always come. Finally, after an unknown number of hours, a powerful wave pushed from behind Xiao Qishi and the others. The killer whales, who had been waiting for a long time, were stunned. Then they cheered happily. The tide is rising the tide is rising. Yes, the tide was rising. The seawater that had receded before surged back. Wallalala, the humans on the shore also noticed this. They raised the buckets in their hands and cheered as well. The water level rose rapidly, and the beached killer whales once again experienced the buoyancy of the sea. Their previously motionless tails moved again. The first tide was obviously not powerful enough. It just gave people hope. When the second tide came, it finally submerged most of the killer whales' bodies. They swung their tails and turned to plunge into the wave, so the wave brought them back to the ocean again. Oh! Watching the black and white behemoths gradually disappear on the shore, there was a burst of cheers and applause on the shore, happy for the 4 killer whales who had been reborn. Xiao Qi and the others were also very happy. Okay, we're saved. Let's go. In the end, they did not come into contact with the killer whales. Instead, they chose to swim away silently. Because the matter was over, they still had their own things to do. The group of killer whales swam in a good mood for a long time, and finally began to discuss what had just happened. Eddie felt that his worldview had been impacted. It turns out that humans are not so bad. They also care about the survival of killer whales. Yes, Xiao Qi had long wanted to tell them that most humans were kind and loving. Some people even fought on the front lines to protect animals and sacrificed a lot for this. But there was no evidence. At the same time, he also felt that there was nothing wrong with letting everyone consciously stay away from humans. But since he had seen it with his own eyes today, he had to praise them. In fact, there is such a group of people who worry about our survival every day. They will feel sorry for the living environment and ecological balance of animals. They will also actively call on their own kind around them to cherish this beautiful world that everyone shares. In short, very good, very good. Salute them. The author has something to say. It's a little short at noon. I'll continue in the afternoon. Chapter 110. There is a group of humans in the world who specialized in protecting animals. If they hadn't experienced it, they might have believed Yolashanda's words unconditionally after seeing humans kill killer whales with their own eyes. But the impression left by the past was too deep, so they didn't believe it, or they wanted to confirm it repeatedly. Really? Gary looked at Herbie, whose dorsal fin was only half erect. To be honest, he hated humans the most among all the killer whales. Of course it's true. If you don't believe me, you can ask Ao Daisai. He knows about it too. Xiao Qi had a flash of inspiration and cleverly kicked the ball to Ao Daisai. Everyone should believe Ao Daisai's honest evaluation more. When they were polar bears, they were rescued by the Wildlife Rescue Station together. It could be said that they were given a new lease of life. If there was no rescue station, they wouldn't have been fated to meet. Does Ao Daisai know about it too? The killer whales were very surprised. In their impression, Ao Daisai had no interaction with humans. This guy never paid attention to human news. Ao Daisai always hid when he saw humans. Well, Yolashanda is right. Ao Daisai still remembered the rescue station and didn't forget that he had been helped by humans, although he was injured by humans. There are good and bad humans, but he didn't say anything more. His position was very clear. Yes, overall, they are better. Xiao Qi didn't insist. In fact, after so long, his position was no longer that of a human. Now, he preferred to analyze things from an objective and animal point of view. Herbie, let's go. Let's continue to look for Mommy. Xiao Qi was happy. Hey, one thing was undeniable. When he saw humans and animals living in harmony, his heart soared. Look for Mommy, look for Mommy. The handsome men in suits who were on the road together repeatedly said. It sounded a little silly, but everyone didn't mind seeing the silly side of their companions. They thought it was very good. Xiao Qi face darkened as she stood in the middle of the group of repeaters. Do you know what you all look like? You guys are just like the taxi drivers in the city. Every time you send a WeChat voice message to your group members, you have to say it at least twice. But what does Xiao Qi complaints have to do with Yolashanda? Yolashanda's most sincere heart. My goodness, you guys are so cute that my face is bleeding. So you guys are such transient whales, along with the wind, along with the water. The family-seeking broadcast was compiled into a song, and the killer whale sang it to every corner of the ocean. Where's Herbie's mother? Poor little Herbie. Balala made up a few sentences. Not to be outdone, AID also sang loudly. Who lost their child? Come and take a look. It's a little male. Xiao Qi wanted to give them a round of applause as they sang really well. At this point, he took back his previous comments and regretted using human standards to judge his companions. They were all the best. As he sang, AID seemed to remember something very important. He looked at Xiao Qi and asked, "Why doesn't Yilashanda sing?" Because of his question, the surroundings immediately quieted down. Yes, why doesn't Yilashanda sing? Xiao Qi was stunned. He didn't expect to be asked such a question. Well, it was because he didn't like singing by nature. He felt that he was tone-deaf and was too shy to show it. I don't like singing. His companions were even more puzzled. They whispered, there are killer whales who don't like singing. Xiao Qi skillfully pulled Ao Daisai to block the bullet. Yes, Ao Daisai doesn't like singing either. That was true. Xiao Qi breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that he had convinced everyone. However, he immediately heard AID say sob, sob, sob. Am I the only one who wants to hear Yilashanda sing? Xiao Qi, I think you're good at drinking tea. If he didn't mention it, no killer whale would have thought of it. When he mentioned it, everyone thought it was a good idea. We also want to hear Yilashanda sing. What was even more frightening was that Ao Daisai also nudged him. It seemed to be full of expectations. Why is this guy joining in the fun? I really don't know how to sing. Xiao Qi refused. He had been insulated from KTVs since he was a child. He would not step in if he could. Even if he went, he would sit in the corner and eat and listen to others sing. How could he open his mouth like this? Why? Ao Daisai and Xiao Qi were very close. The two figures were almost conjoined twins, swimming forward in the sea together. It was difficult for two humans to maintain the same speed, but it was easy for two killer whales. Their control of the sea was as simple as breathing. They could swim in whatever position they wanted. Because I don't sing well, Xiao Qi was immersed in the emotion of being ashamed to open his mouth. He didn't feel that there was anything wrong with him and Ao Daisai at all. Anyway, the dog food was spread every day. Other killer whales should have been used to it. No, little cutie. Ao Daisai seriously encouraged his partner, who dared not sing. Your voice is very good. You must sing well. No, I won't sing. Xiao Qi refused. It's not like he hasn't sung before. The first time he sang in memory, he was embarrassed by his own singing. Since then, he never touched the microphone again. Thank you. The voice of a killer whale is different. Ao Daisai said, I'll sing for you first. Ao Daisai turned over and swam forward smoothly. His posture was quite comfortable and leisurely. Then his companions, who had never heard his singing, heard a string of melodious singing. The content was still the same stupid content, but the tone was completely different. It seemed that he had arranged the music himself. The family of killer whales soon arrived. They were of the same species as Herbie and were indeed of the same type. A total of 5 came. One of the females came forward and made contact with Herbie. Seeing the unfamiliar killer whale approaching, Herbie was a little shy and hid behind the passing whales. He didn't dare to show his face. The female called out a few times, but he didn't respond. Logically, if they were really mother and son, they would remember each other's voices. Wasn't that right? The female didn't seem to give up and continued to call out. Xiao Qi felt sad. Look, this was a mother who lost her child. Their lives were sad. In a vast sea, if they really couldn't find him, even until the day the whale fell, the mother might not be able to let go. Herbie called out. Xiao Qi was worried that Herbie's memory would be wrong for various reasons, and he wouldn't recognize his mother. So she encouraged Herbie and talked to him. Herbie responded with a small voice, as if saying, Brother, why are you calling me? The female killer whale stopped calling out, and the light in her eyes gradually dimmed. Because through the voice, She was sure that this was not her lost child. "Oh no," Gary muttered. Jerry muttered in a low voice, but he didn't appear to be very happy because he could completely feel the female killer whale's sadness. She was a little pitiful. After confirming that Herbie was not their child, the 5 killer whales that had come from afar left silently. Looking at their disappointed but hopeful backs, the handsome men in suits didn't say anything for a while. After a while, Xiao Qishi said optimistically, maybe their child was just lost not long ago. He could still be found. If they really couldn't find him for a long time, then the child was gone, or he was still in a human aquarium. It was better to be the latter than the former. Like Herbie, the latter still had a chance to reunite with his family. Yilashanda, that mother is so pitiful. I changed my mind. Gary suddenly thought it through. I should work hard to help Herbie find his mother. When Herbie became an adult, he could come out and play with them. Wouldn't that be enough? Gary, who had figured it out, became happy again. He sang even harder and louder than before. Where's Herbie's mother? Poor little Herbie. Xiao Qishi was speechless. Well, the glory of the whale nature was vividly reflected at this moment. A.B. Stifji, may all mothers in the world be reunited with their children. Chapter 111. The so-called carpet search meant that they had to go to every place, including the mysterious Bermuda Triangle that was full of danger, that sea area where ships often sank. A group of killer whales came to the edge of the Bermuda Triangle and looked at the distant sky with dark clouds and thunder. They were a little timid. The weather is bad. Let's give up on this place first. Xiao Qishi made a prompt decision. At this time, he still didn't know that this was the famous Bermuda Triangle. I heard that there's a scary place in the Atlantic Ocean. AID always had a deep impression of such scary things. He flipped through the memories in his mind and couldn't wait to share. Yes, it's the Atlantic Ocean. The water here will sweep fish up into the sky. Sweep fish up into the sky. Xiao Qishi thought for a moment. That was a tornado, not water. No, killer whales shouldn't be so stupid that they can't even distinguish between water and wind. A water spout? I don't know. A few pairs of eyes looked at each other. They had never seen it before. They had only heard of it. Do you want to see it? Ao Daisai hugged his little bear. As someone born in the Atlantic Ocean, he knew that sometimes such things did happen in this place. Water spout? This word described it very well. Of course. Why not see one of the 10 wonders of the sea? He just didn't know if it would happen. Xiao Qishi had lived in the sea for so many years, but he had never seen a water spout with his own eyes. Maybe he was just unlucky. Then wait here, Ao Daisai said, as if waiting here would lead to it. But for some reason, Xiao Qishi trusted his intuition. There was one thing he had to admit. Ao Daisai's sixth sense was much sharper than theirs. Okay. The other killer whales also agreed with this arrangement. They were tired from a journey. When they heard that they were going to stop and rest, they were so happy that they scattered. Let's get something to eat first. Herbie, are you hungry? When Gary's voice came, his body had already run far away. Come, I'll find you something delicious. Then they heard Herbie chasing after Gary. Hey, brother, wait for me. After a while, another voice sounded, Herbie here. Halfway through his swim, Herbie froze. Half a second later, he happily changed his direction and chased after him. Hey, Herbie came. After waiting for a long time and not seeing little Herbie, Gary exploded in anger. What are you guys doing? Do you want to fight? No one answered his question. Herbie, come here. Xiao Qishi was speechless. You guys will break Herbie like this. However, Herbie didn't mind. Perhaps he felt that this was a sign of being welcomed, so he couldn't be happier. Herbie happily shuttled back and forth between his companions and swallowed the fish that his companions had knocked out for him. Are you hungry? Ao Daisai came and went like a ghost. No one knew when it left and came back with a big, fat sailfish in its mouth. The way he swam in the sea with ease was always exceptionally charming. Xiao Qishi looked at him for a while before taking the fish. Why don't you loosen your mouth? Could it be that this guy was teasing her? Xiao Qishi was embarrassed and angry. Then she angrily pulled the sailfish out of his mouth and ate it. Humph. As long as he didn't feel embarrassed, the other party would feel embarrassed. Hey, Ao Daisai looked at him and seemed to be smiling. Hey, your head. Xiao Qi, she muttered, but she was also laughing in her heart. Damn, this childish guy. After that, Ao Daisai stuck to him and didn't leave his side to play with him. Slowly, Xiao Qi fell in a deep thought. He looked at the clingy Ao Daisai and then at his companions who were playing around and seemed to understand something. Because she felt sorry for Herbie who couldn't find a home. Everyone was circling around Herbie. Ao Daisai was afraid that he would be left out and unhappy, right? Silly Ao Daisai. Xiao Qi kissed him and said in a warm voice, I don't feel left out. As long as you accompany me, I'm willing to go to the ends of the earth with you. The ends of the earth. Ao Daisai was thinking, what is that place? But according to his personality, even if he didn't know, he wouldn't ask casually. Only AID and the others would ask questions all day long. AID said, where is the ends of the earth? Ao Daisai, who was holding a Lashanda, pricked up her ears. Since AID asked, she would listen. It's the end of the sky and the end of the ocean. I haven't been there, so I don't know where it is. Xiao Qi seriously talked nonsense. After a short thought, he decided to give the killer whales a particularly romantic answer, indicating that this place existed, but they might not find it in their lifetime. Is that so? The cool guys thought about it, and someone suggested, why don't we send Herbie home, and then we'll go to the ends of the earth. The end of the sky and the end of the sea sounded very cool, then set it as the next goal to complete. Not bad. Yes. It's hard not to agree. Everyone was happy because they had a next goal. It was very difficult for them to plan anything in the past. Ao Daisai, what do you think? They didn't seem to have heard Ao Daisai's answer. Okay. Ao Daisai was stunned. These guys actually cared about his opinion. After all, Yilashanda had already agreed. The ends of the earth. He seemed to be looking forward to it. Xiao Qi. Oh no, I'm starting to feel a little pressured. Eating, drinking, chatting, it was very much like the scene in his memory when Xiao Qi and her new colleagues waited for the aurora at the North Pole. But it was cold in the North Pole, so cold that they shivered. It was not cold here, and there was a buffet. About 3 hours later, the sky above the Bermuda Triangle was getting darker and the weather looked worse. The human drones had already been withdrawn, and it was difficult for them to continue staying here. Sorry, little drone. Yilashanda smirked. Suddenly, she heard Balala shout, it's here, look. Suddenly, a thick waterspout rose up from the surface of the sea and soared into the sky. This waterspout swayed left and right. It could be seen with the naked eye that its spinning speed was very fast. Once a fish was caught in it, it would definitely die. Is there only one? Another one. The fish in the Bermuda Triangle were very pitiful, but the killer whales who stayed out of it were not afraid of making things worse. As if it had heard their call, another waterspout appeared not far away from the waterspout. Oh ho! Then the third, the fourth, a total of 5 waterspouts appeared on the sea. The killer whales who were watching from the side retreated several times. They were afraid that the danger would continue to spread and affect them. It was really an eye-opener. Of course, humans would not let go of such a marine spectacle, but they could only use satellites to capture images that were not very clear. It was impossible to capture high-definition videos. Once planes and ships got close, they would sink to the bottom of the sea to accompany the sunken ships. After the group of cool guys saw the spectacle, they left contentedly. When the weather was better, they would come back here to take a look. But it was so dangerous here. Herbie's relatives would not settle here unless their heads were caught in a clamshell. The satellite did indeed capture the scene of the waterspout in the Bermuda Triangle. At the same time, it also captured a group of killer whales who were watching the show. They kept retreating, but they were unwilling to leave. They only left when a waterspout dissipated. The staff in the field of animals laughed to death. They were so curious that they looked no different from humans. Perhaps this was a precious piece of information, so they handed it over to the relevant institutions for research. After receiving it, they also felt that it was very funny. They knew these killer whales. Thank you very much. At that time, because of the bad weather, their drones were withdrawn, and this piece of information from different work units just filled in the gap. It turned out that they were waiting for the waterspout. What a group of boys with leisure time. Yes, this group was all males, and there was even a loving couple among them. If this continued, people would be worried about their offspring. There were a large number of killer whales living in the Atlantic Ocean. Not all of them were Form 1 and Form 2. They could also be travelers. Occasionally, they would also encounter a group of passing whales led by females. The scene was like a blind date. The two groups would whisper, each paying attention to the other side that was not far away. It was just that the content of the conversation was very different. On the male side, it's a female. Let's go. I remember the fear of being dominated by a female. Before they were 10 years old, they also lived with their mothers and mothers-in-law. After leaving the family, they would basically contact each other, and the content of the contact was very likely. There's a group of females of the right age in a certain place. Do you want to go and take a look? Xiao Qixi did not know, but after knowing, she laughed to death. It turned out that killer whale families were no different from human families. They could never escape the main theme, urging marriage and childbirth. Ga. But then again, it was natural to have offspring. Why suppress yourself? Captain, why don't you and Balala go and meet them? They were both adults, and now was the best age to have children. As for Gary, Yulashanda felt that he was gay and had the potential to be gay, so she did not intend to encourage him to harm female killer whales. Wouldn't that be a sin? The captain and Balala were different. They were both upright and kind males, and their private lives were very simple. The two handsome men in suits were as if they were facing a great enemy. It seemed that this topic was very stressful for them. Don't you like cute little killer whales? My brother and sister were really super cute when they were born. They were round, and their cries were crisp and pleasant. Yulashanda sighed regretfully. It's just that Ao Daisai and I can't have babies. Otherwise, we would definitely have two. It sounded like giving birth to a little killer whale was a very interesting thing. Captain, don't lie to me. Even if you give birth, you won't live with me. Who didn't know that killer whale babies were all from female families and had nothing to do with them? Xiao Qixi. Don't be so clear-headed. That's right. Balala was almost convinced. Fortunately, AI Leo told him the truth. So what if the little killer whale was cute? If they dared to touch it, the females would chase them to the ends of the earth. Well, it was not the males who decided the birth rate of the little killer whale. The female killer whales in the ocean did not lack mating partners. If you want to be a monk, you can continue to be one. Ao Daisai quietly pounced on Xiao Qixi. There was no splash, but the other party could not float up. You want to have a little killer whale with a female? Why did this voice sound a little dangerous? Xiao Qixi trembled. Which ear of yours heard that I want to have a little killer whale with a female? He dove down and escaped in another direction. It's best if it's not. After a long time, his partner, who was chasing after his tail, said, Of course not. Fool Ao Daisai. Well, to be honest, the other party's jealous look was really cute. Since they were already underwater, Xiao Qixi did not plan to float up for a while. He never got tired of exploring the bottom of the sea. The gullies here were full of attraction to him, as if there was gold hidden in them. As he played, a figure approached. He thought it was Ao Daisai. Ao Daisai. He went hunting. It was Daya. What were we eating today? Hunting was different from catching snacks. It was a proper meal. Xiao Qixi and Daya chatted. Sharks, I don't know. Daya spat out bubbles and also explored the surroundings to find some snacks for himself. Then why didn't you go with him? Xiao Qixi was curious. Perhaps this question was more difficult to answer. Daya thought for a moment and spat out a bunch of transparent bubbles. Catching sharks does not require too many killer whales. Sharks were very stupid. Carrie accompanied Herbie, so he came to accompany Yulashanda. Xiao Qixi was deep in thought. So that's why, after interacting with each other for so long, the once cold Daya had become gentle. So you feel that compared to catching sharks, Yulashanda needs you more, right? Sob, so heartwarming. Then let's play hide and seek. You hide well, and I will catch you. If I catch you, you will lose a fish to me. How about that? Daya. Question mark. What's it a play? Let's play too. Count us in, oh no, two of us. Gary chuckled and appeared around them with Herbie. Sure, go and hide. If you lose, you will have to catch a fish for me, Xiao Qixi said. It sounded like it was going to be fun. It was a little exciting. Of course, because there was a prize, it was basically a gamble. What if you don't find it? Daya's brain worked quickly and immediately understood the rules of the game. If you don't find it, you will also lose a fish to us. That's how it's played. Xiao Qixi looked at Daya with admiration. If you don't catch it, you can still earn a fish? It seemed even more exciting. Deal. Carrie couldn't wait to start immediately. He turned around and left with Herbie. Let's go, Herbie. Let's hide. Herbie followed obediently. You only have 2 minutes. Xiao Qixi turned around and started to time them. 1 minute, half a minute. With the speed of killer whales, 2 minutes was enough for them to find hiding place. After Xiao Qixi turned around, he couldn't sense any killer whales around. This was the most advanced hide-and-seek game he had ever played. Since they were going to play, they couldn't cheat. Hence, they couldn't use echolocation. They could only rely on their senses. Oh, but there were some reasonable ways to cheat. Herbie, little Angel Herbie exposed his position. Carrie. Was it too late to run with the little idiot now? The four-whale team that was hunting sharks, Lashanda, shamelessly went straight to the target and blocked the 2 killer whales that were about to run away. Carrie, you owe me a fish. Carrie rolled his eyes and was a little angry. His heart ached for that fish. It shouldn't have lost to Lashanda, who cheated. The fish was secondary. The main thing was that he felt wronged. Let him think, if he didn't pay up, would he be beaten up by Ao Daisai? You cheated. Haha. Not only did I cheat, but I also treated them differently. Xiao Qixi kissed Herbie in front of Carrie. Thank you, Herbie. I'll give you half of the fish when I get it. Herbie was shy, like an introverted little boy. He said okay. Okay. Let's play another round. Carrie didn't have any principles. Even if Lashanda cheated, he still wanted to play. I'm going to hide. Come find me again. Okay, I'll go find Daya first. Xiao Qixi had already thought of a way to find Daya. After so long, Daya must have floated up to breathe. He just had to wait on the surface of the sea. At this moment, Daya, who was hiding behind the reef, felt the oxygen in his lungs getting less and less. He felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't figure out what was wrong. It was really strange. Ciao. In time, all the fish in the sea will be mine. P.S. Gambling is not right. Don't advertise gambling. As for the killer whales, they're all outlaws. We can't do anything about them, right? There's a high probability that there will be a second update today. Chapter 112. Killer whales could hold their breath for a maximum of 20 minutes. After hiding behind the reef for 20 minutes, Daya finally couldn't help but float to the surface to breathe. But at this time, he didn't feel that he had been tricked. Wasn't it normal to breathe? Xiao Qixi, who had been waiting on the surface for a long time, heard the sound of breathing and immediately swam over to stop the whale. Daya, I've caught you, ha. Daya was caught off guard, but he still didn't realize what was wrong. Oh, so he owed Lashanda a fish and decided to hide better next time. He definitely wouldn't be caught so easily by Lashanda again. In view of the fact that their hunting companions had not yet returned, Daya, like Carrie, was eager to do it again. Xiao Qixi had no choice. It would be a waste not to take the fish that was sent to his door. Then he found them again. This time, his companions were back. So Lashanda, who had won 4 fish, said, I'm not playing anymore. Let's play again in the future. To be honest, this kind of small game was just to pass the time. Xiao Qixi forgot about it after eating a meal. But Carrie and Daya didn't forget. After eating shark liver, they caught 2 fish for Lashanda. Lashanda, let's play again. Xiao Qixi laughed and gave one of the fish to Herbie according to his promise. He didn't really want to play again. If they continued to play like this, Carrie and Dia would lose so much that they wouldn't even have their underwear left. Eddie's heart itched when he heard them play. It sounded like it was fun, and there were fish to eat if they won. I want to play too. I want to play too. Xiao Qishi was puzzled. There were fish everywhere in the ocean. Why were they fighting so hard for the prize? Then he thought about it. They weren't doing it for the prize. They just thought that hide and seek was fun. Since everyone was so excited, he said, "Okay, let's play hide and seek in the afternoon and find Herbie's mother tomorrow." Sigh, a bunch of guys who threw serious business aside for the sake of playing. She didn't know if they felt guilty, but they felt a little Xiao Qishi. The killer whales were really easy to find. They could not help but respond after a few words of verbal stimulation, so it was not difficult to find them. Yolashanda won a lot of fish in the afternoon. Even so, no killer whale said that he was not good. It had to be said that the gambling quality was really good. In this way, when the weather was good, they would tell stories and hurry on their way. When the weather was bad, they would stop to rest and play hide and seek. During this period of time, the killer whales were happiest when it rained because they could play without restraint. In the past, when he didn't have any missions, he hadn't been so happy. Although he was free every day and could play as much as he wanted, he had never felt that life was so enjoyable. Now that he was hiding, taking a nap, and slacking off while waiting for Yolashanda to find him, he felt very happy even though he was about to lose a fish. Yes, they had never won Yolashanda's fish. It was a pity. It was a little annoying to only get in and not get out, so they would still secretly talk about cheating and blah blah blah. Ao Daisai laughed when he heard this. It's obviously you guys who are too stupid. The group of cool guys who had all lost fish. Perhaps, after being laughed at, their focus changed, and they began to stare at Ao Daisai sneakily, a little expectant. Ao Daisai, can you win Yolashanda's fish? I don't think so. Oh, then Ao Daisai is as stupid as us. My goodness, wasn't this a provocation? Xiao Qishi was impressed. One was playing the role of good cop, and the other was playing the role of a good cop. Ao Daisai would not be fooled. Yes. Ao Daisai's answer immediately slapped Xiao Qishi in the face. What? What was this guy talking about? Did they still want to be together? I can win Yolashanda's fish. Ao Daisai was full of confidence. He swam to Xiao Qishi and spun around, his eyes full of gentleness. Do you want to try? You've already issued a challenge. Xiao Qishi thought, can I still say no? Let's try, but the stakes will be doubled. One seal. Ao Daisai was unperturbed and did not care. This guy agreed too quickly, right? 2. Xiao Qishi opened his mouth like a lion. And I want a spotted seal. This is my favorite kind of fish. How about it? Agreed. Ao Daisai looked at him. If you lose, I don't want the fish. Then what do you want? Xiao Qishi also looked at the other party. The more she looked, the faster her heart beat. Damn, he seemed to know what the other party wanted. Oh, okay. We'll talk about it in detail when the time comes. I'll definitely find you. Xiao Qishi agreed vaguely. He was ready to do the same thing to Ao Daisai and teach him a lesson. What's the time limit? Ao Daisai blinked and asked. And he asked this question in a whisper. He did not directly expose the little cutie's background in front of his companions. At this moment, Xiao Qishi's heart beat faster and his face turned red. Damn. It seemed like the two seals were going to be ruined. 1 hour. Ao Daisai proposed himself. He did not take advantage of Xiao Qishi. Speaking of which, it was still Xiao Qishi who took advantage. If Xiao Qishi still did not agree, he would be openly going back on his word. Okay. After he agreed, Ao Daisai turned and left. 2 minutes later, he disappeared without a trace. At this moment, Xiao Qishi thought of a problem. Even if he knew where Ao Daisai was by cheating, there was no way he could catch up with him. Unless Ao Daisai was like the others and did not try to escape after being discovered. Also, Ao Daisai could use the echolocation system to find out where he was and then use anti-tracking methods to deal with him. Chapter 113. The killer whale on the screen was moving forward at full speed, and this movement attracted the attention of the staff. Why were they suddenly so anxious? Chasing after food? No, the staff who had been observing this group of killer whales for a while knew very well that their attitude towards food was very casual, because there was no shortage of food. What could it be? It seemed that only by following them all the way could they get the right answer. Was it another little game of killer whales? So far, people already knew that they liked to play hide and seek, and they also liked to play competitive games of chasing each other. Occasionally, they would gather together quietly, and it didn't look like they were sleeping. Xiao Qi. It's to listen to stories. At this moment, each of their killer whales was singing a celebratory song and moving forward. This extremely excited two-way rush lasted for 2 hours. Together, they worked hard to cross more than 300 kilometers, and they finally welcomed the long-awaited reunion on the blue sea. When he was still a distance away from his mother, Herbie nervously stopped. He returned to the group he had been with for a year and started acting spoiled. It seemed that he also knew that he was going to return to his mother's arms and say goodbye. Herbie, Carrie hugged the little killer whale that he had taken care of carefully and whimpered. Why? Whimper. Of course, he would still return Herbie to him, but he felt uncomfortable in his heart. Carrie was so good to Herbie. How could the shy and sensitive little Herbie not know that he also fully relied on this brother who took care of his daily life? And now he felt that the other party didn't want him to leave. So he was also at a loss. Herbie didn't want Carrie to be sad. On one side was his mother, whom he missed day and night, and on the other side were his brothers who had brought him back to life again. He was reluctant to part with both sides. Carrie, don't be like this. Herbie will be very sad if you do this. Xiao Qi swam over to comfort the two of them, and her tone was relaxed and happy. It's a good thing that Herbie is going home. We can still come out to play in the future. Yes. Carrie, don't be sad. Herbie will remember you. His companions persuaded him one by one, and they all sounded quite reasonable. After all, they were cool guys, but it was obvious that they were also reluctant to part with the little killer whale. Okay, Gary was comforted and quickly put away his sad mood. He began to say goodbye to Herbie. His first sentence was, "If anyone dares to bully you when you go back, tell me." Everyone, Herbie was a treasure home. Who would dare to bully him? However, they could understand Carrie's feelings. Eddie and Barara whispered to each other, does Carrie want to date Herbie? Just like Ao Daisai and Yolashanda? Possibly, Barara said gravely. Chapter 114. The days of waiting seemed unusually long and full of hope. Fortunately, this group of killer whales were still in their youth, and they still had a few decades of lifespan to squander. From south to north, from west to east, the four oceans were a happy world for them to roam freely. In fact, the captain was not young anymore. When Xiao Qi first met the captain, he was already 28 years old. In the blink of an eye, several years had passed, and the captain was already in his early 30s. Originally, killer whales had no concept of time, but Xiao Qi always nagged that time is a butcher's knife, which made them feel that it was wrong not to go out on dates when they were young. So everyone slowly changed their minds. Just like Yolashanda said, they had to seize the tale of youth as soon as possible and become a father. Anyway, it was too difficult to find him. They had been looking for him for 2 or 3 years and still hadn't found him. Of course, this didn't include Gary. When everyone went on dates, he sneered. What's the point of going on dates? I'm not going. He said it righteously, but in fact his companions all knew. Oh, you're waiting for Herbie. Gary, who was suddenly exposed, exploded. Although he didn't have any hair, he refused to admit that he was waiting for Herbie. How could it be? Why would he wait for Herbie, that little fool? But in Yolashanda's eyes, it was shyness. Haha, I didn't expect Gary to be so pure and cute. Wait, who taught him those dirty words in the past? Balala. It has nothing to do with me. Oh, You don't want him to come back to us? Then I'll tell him not to come back. Xiao Qixi deliberately teased him, as if it was true. Yilashanda. Damn it, Sai. Gary was so angry that he shouted, You can't, you can't. Xiao Qixi was amused and sighed. Killer whales really couldn't hide their emotions. Of course, they couldn't hide their straightforward and passionate love either. Of course, he didn't provoke the young couple. His heart was full of sincere blessings. Well, if they really wanted to be together. Fortunately, Herbie didn't let Gary wait for too long. He finally came out of his home at the age of 10 and followed them to the ends of the earth without hesitation. Everyone was very happy and cheered for Herbie's return. Xiao Qixi was also very happy, but at the same time, he felt guilty. If it weren't for their influence, Herbie would have stayed at home with his mother. But thinking about it, if it weren't for their full support, Herbie might not have been able to find his home. Forget it. Forget it. I don't want to think about it anymore. Thus, after 4 years, the 8 killer whales once again gathered to swim the 4 seas. This carefree period of time was when Xiao Qixi was 12 to 20 years old. It was quite dreamy and brilliant, full of fairy tale-like beauty. But it seems that all good things will come to an end one day. This is inevitable. Yes, yes. Of course, he would agree first. After agreeing on many things, the two parties reluctantly said goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye, Jelly. Take good care of Herbie. We're leaving. Yilashanda and Ao Daisai finally embarked on their journey. Are we really going back to have a meal with them? Ao Daisai asked. I lied to them. Xiao Qixi sighed. She felt a little guilty, but that guilt was not worth mentioning compared to the honeymoon. The 2 killer whales ran all the way. Oh no, they swam through the wind and waves. Soon, they went to the other side of the earth for their vacation. Their friends realized that they could not contact them and knew that they had gone on a long journey. Seriously, why did they go so far? Were they afraid that they would freeload? Ever since then, ABCD and Little Herbie always looked forward to the day when they could have a meal with Yilashanda and Ao Daisai. But they were stood up countless times by the 2 detestable killer whales. They were used to making long-distance calls only when they could contact each other. Just like when they were together for 10 years, they could say whatever they wanted to say. Distance would not cause estrangement. Lying on the seaweed and basking in the summer sun of the Ross Sea, Yilashanda felt very blissful as she chatted with her friends on the phone and complained about each other's recent life experiences. Okay, I won't talk to you guys anymore. Ao Daisai is back with the seals. Her friends were speechless. If they remembered correctly, Yilashanda and Ao Daisai were in the Ross Sea. The seals there were especially delicious. Oh, they were so hungry that they all wanted to go to the Ross Sea for a vacation. Don't tell them where you are. Ao Daisai, who came back with food in his mouth, reminded the little cutie. He was 25 years old this year, and his body had completely grown into an adult. He looked even more mighty and huge than before. His 1.8-meter-long dorsal fin stood tall. No matter where he went, other animals would tremble in fear. Okay, Xiao Qixi agreed obediently. He was in his early 20s, but he was also an adult. Cough, cough. When he was with Ao Daisai, even if he casually turned over, there would be a visual effect of heaven falling and earth shattering. But no matter how old he was, it seemed that Ao Daisai still treated him as a little cutie that needed to be protected as usual. Until forever. The author has something to say, ending this unit peacefully. A new chapter will be updated in the afternoon. The new identity is the story of a pair of wolf cubs who joined the army on their own, fighting for a job in the army. In one sentence, from the grassroots to full of medals. She was a good person and had made a lot of money this year. Who would have thought that there would be food the moment he woke up? Looking at the shiny pot and the steaming minced meat porridge, Yilashanda's tail was wagging so hard that it was about to fly to the sky. Ao Daisai, come and eat. There were many stray dogs in the city. The first to arrive would get it. Ao Daisai stood lazily at the door of the wooden house. He stretched and walked over to wait for the food. The mincemeat porridge was still a little hot. Yulashanda could not wait to eat 2 mouthfuls. He stuck his tongue out and breathed out. It was so hot. Sure enough, haste makes waste. But he was so hungry that his chest was sticking to his back. Ao Daisai was not in a hurry at all. He quietly stayed by the side and stared at the human's hand. He seemed to be afraid that she would touch Yulashanda. The weather was cold, and the food cooled down quickly. They could eat soon. This impatient little puppy ate happily. The Annie thought that he would eat alone. She wondered what the other dog was doing. Why didn't he eat? He was too obedient. Eat alone? How could that be? Xiao Qishi retreated halfway and let Ao Daisai eat. He guarded the surrounding movements. It was not to prevent the Annie from petting the dog. He was guarding against other stray dogs. Ao Daisai sniffed the food that the little bear had eaten. It was a strange smell. He had never eaten it before, but it exuded a delicious aroma and stimulated his taste buds. So he ate it quickly and gracefully. Looking at the two of them, who had a good appetite, the Annie muttered, "Your appetite is really big." She also wondered, "Hey, why are there only the 2 of you today? There were usually several dogs." "It was really strange," the Annie muttered. Xiao Qishi licked his mouth and blinked innocently. "Sorry, I just changed from few tons of killer whales. My appetite was not adjusted for a while." "Didn't he accidentally eat it all?" The kind-hearted Annie cleaned up the basin and left. The 2 new dogs, Yulashanda and Ao Daisai, squinted in the sun for a while. Yulashanda was about to go back to sleep, but Ao Daisai held the back of his neck and said, "Let's go out and take a look." In the face of an unfamiliar environment, how could Ao Daisai sleep? He was full of curiosity about everything around him. The plan to sleep in was suddenly ruined. Xiao Qishi whined sleepily and had to follow. He had no desire to explore. It was just an ordinary 4th or 5th-tier city. He had lived in it for more than 10 years. He could describe the whole picture with his eyes closed. What was there to see? He had no money. The author has something to say. The new unit is here. I will start from a small police station, but I will be promoted quickly. I promise. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.